Well, that's not till like the second half of the show, so...
Right, but I want to know how to set it up before we get there.
All right.
I don't improv well, Josh. I need structure in my life.
You have a structured settlement and you need cash now. Call 877 cash now.
JG, what word?
Yeah.
877 cash now.
No.
I don't even feel like I watch commercials anymore, but for some reason I know that fucking thing.
Yeah. There's a really bad one that's like Backstreet Boys version of it. Oh god, it's fucking atrocious.
I don't know if I know that one. And that doesn't mean send it to me. Just keep it to yourself.
I'm gonna fucking find it and send it to you now. It's dynamic. It's great. It's fantastic.
The face sells it, Andy. The face.
Jingles like that work, man, because I can tell you, still to this day, I don't remember shit about the one McGruff the Crime Dog. You remember Scruff McGruff the Crime Dog?
Yeah.
I remember the name.
Take a bite
So
of a crime.
he had a commercial at one time. I'll never forget Chicago's zip code because of that commercial, because of the jingle at the end of it. It was like Scruff McGruff, Chicago, Illinois, 60652.
52.
And I'm just like, how the fuck do I know Chicago's fucking zip code because of this stupid jingle and I don't remember what the lesson the damn dog was trying to teach me, because the catchiest part of the thing was the little song with Chicago and the zip code.
Yeah.
I always remember the Century
3
Chevrolet, Lebanon Church Road,
Pittsburgh.
Minutes from the mall.
I can remember that,
Yes,
because
that
the first
one.
time I actually was on Lebanon Church Road, I was like, I'm here.
Where is it? Yes.
Yeah.
That's the first thought that came to my mind the first time I drove out to Josh and Sarah's place when they were out that way. This is the road from the song. It's Lebanon Church Road. This is it.
And that
I can find Chevrolet
that
here.
That dealership is just a few minutes. As soon as you get up onto
yeah.
that road, it's just to the left is right there.
You get all excited. You're like, guys, I'm minutes from the mall.
Oh,
that
but not
mall.
anymore.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bry Guy and his Super Friends. I'm your host, Brian Labick. Joining me for this episode is a podcaster for the people, Andy Stulls.
What's up, podcast people?
Next up is a man who said we may be getting too many superhero movies released in a year, and so the powers that be answered with a pandemic, Josh Zorch.
And then in response to that a little bit, we're going to get about triple what we would have once we are okay to go. And I do stand slightly corrected at this point. Just give it all to me. I will be the Marvel version of Paula's Star Wars, and I will choke on all the comic book movies.
Good callback. I like it.
Yeah.
And finally, Ian's not here, so the pressure's on him to give us his best intro. Mike Bradley.
What's up, guys? I'm not going to do an Ian intro. That's not my thing. It's 100% something that only that guy does. But you can check out his Teespring store. You can check out the shirt that I have sponsored personally. I want to watch Vin Diesel mouth fuck a beer. You can find it on his Teespring store. I highly suggest you buy it. It's high quality, good cotton. 100% cotton, maybe. It might be a blend. I didn't check. But
For off the cuff, that was pretty good.
That was really good, actually, yeah.
So when you say you're almost endorsing it, does that mean you've purchased one yourself?
yes.
I've seen him wear it on
Is that the
stream.
one you accidentally bought, or
No. That was on purpose.
so now
that
Ian
one
has
and
made
hashtag
twice as
white
much
spider lip.
as Brian has?
No, 3 times. I bought another one. I bought the hashtag white spider liquid as well. So
Telling you, Ian should be the sponsor of the show.
well, I mean,
The Great
it's there.
Leon. Is that the name of the Teespring store? The Great
Yeah,
Leon?
something like that. I wasn't really actually prepared in any way to.
Yeah, see, he's not here to plug it, so I didn't take the time to look it up and see what the link actually was.
I was giving my best imitation of Ian for about 1/3 of that, and then I just gave up because
It started strong.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. It was like he was here.
I'll close my eyes. Do it again.
That was rhetorical. As he shakes his head. All right, so the plan for this episode was to try to cover some news topics. We had a few topics lined up previously, and then some big shit happened. Warner Brothers decided to release their entire lineup of 2021 movies to HBO Max the same day as theaters, and Disney had an investor call last night, and they announced a shit ton of stuff.
So, just a quick question. I know it's not Warner Brothers related, but at that point, can we, legally speaking, I mean, you know the copyright stuff, can we get Jeff Goldblum in there saying that is one big pile of shit? Can we just piece that in?
Maybe.
I think your take right there is good enough.
Yeah, we can just reuse that over and over again.
All right, fair enough.
But yeah, you know, when Disney does their stuff, you never actually realize how much Disney owns until they get a chance to talk about all the stuff that they own, because they went on for like 4 hours for this investor call. It was insane. So really, those are the only two things we're going to try to cover. This could very well be a 5-hour podcast. We're going to try our best not to do that, but there's a lot of shit to hit. So keep in mind, I'm fully expecting you to all call me a liar by the time this is over and this has gone way too long. But for right now, we're going to try to go for a tight 2 hours. We'll see how we do. So we're going to start right in with the Warner Brothers stuff for HBO Max. I've got a ton of details to go through. Hang with me for a little bit. This is the stuff that I find interesting, that I like researching and trying to piece together. So we're going to try to follow this chain of events and see how we got here. So traditionally, movies have a very specific window that they have to be played in a movie theater before they can be released digitally or to be rented from your home. So that window is usually between 75 and 90 days. Now with the pandemic and the way that's affected movie theaters, they had to close. There was an immediate change to this model. Granted, I'm sure a lot of these plans to release movies more directly to consumers have been in the works for a while, but the pandemic forced some of those plans to be put in place a lot sooner than expected. So back in April, when theaters were forced to close, Universal was the first studio to try something drastic by pulling Trolls World Tour, releasing it straight to video on-demand services. For $20, you could have a 48-hour of a newly released movie right in your home. Now, when this first happened, did any of you guys actually take advantage of this and watch Trolls World Tour at home?
I did not personally, but I know several personal friends and coworkers who did, most of them who had children.
Yeah, that seemed like a big get for people that didn't want to go to the theater, have kids, and just need to entertain them because you are stuck inside now.
And because even at that time, theaters weren't opened again yet.
Right.
No.
Anybody else? No?
No, I had no desire to watch that movie whatsoever.
Like, to Josh's point, though, the people with kids, I'm hoping that this change that we're going to talk about really helps them stay home and out of theaters. No offense. Children ruin more movies for me than anything else.
Brian, I know that you and my wife were looking forward to going back for this one.
And it's sad, I have to admit, I have not even seen this movie yet. I didn't want to pay the $20, because in my mind it was like, okay, I'll get to this eventually, whether I rent it later down the line. I don't have to see it right the second. I will see it later somewhere down the line, which I still haven't done.
That sounds like a
which is sad, because as big of a JT fan as I am, I haven't watched it yet. So I need to make this a priority, honestly, to get back and try to watch this at some point. But I haven't done it yet.
Why?
JT. JT.
Oh, is he in it?
Yeah, well, he's the voice of one of the characters. I saw the first one.
Oh, well, see, nah.
Don't you remember that dance?
This is a sequel.
Of the song from the first one. Could not get away from that damn thing. Working at the movie theater at the time.
Well, I mean, I didn't even realize that the first one was a thing. So that shows you where I was at.
The voice cast is pretty good.
It was big too. It did bank.
A lot of things that are big with children don't exactly,
Oh, see, I'm a kid, so it doesn't matter. I will see it all.
I am in some ways, but I don't know. I don't do the musical stuff either, though. So,
fair.
So, Brian, what was the fallout of this decision from Universal?
So obviously movie theater chains did not like that. And almost immediately, AMC, one of the biggest movie theater chains out there, fired back, said they would not show any Universal movies, which included the upcoming Fast and Furious 9, Jurassic Park Dominion, everything under Universal's category, or, their studio. They weren't going to show that in theaters. And this was when Fast and Furious 9 and Jurassic Park were still supposed to release, I think, this year.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, your big stuff, we're not showing that anymore. You're done. At the time, AMC Theaters president and CEO Adam Aron left this quote. This radical change by Universal to the business model that currently exists between our two companies represents nothing but downside for us and is categorically unacceptable to AMC Entertainment. Accordingly, we want to be absolutely clear so that there is no ambiguity of any kind. AMC believes that with this proposed action to go to the home and theaters simultaneously, Universal is breaking the business model and dealings between our two companies. It assumes that we will meekly accept a reshaped view of how studios and exhibitors should interact, with zero concern on Universal's part as to how its actions affect us. It also presumes that Universal, in fact, can have its cake and eat it too. The Universal film product can be released to the home and theaters at the same time without modification to the current economic agreements between us. From that quote, I almost feel like you could replace Universal with Warner Brothers and we're in the same boat 9 months later.
Yeah, 100%.
So eventually, AMC and Universal made a deal. So when the movie releases, it will play in the theater for 17 days, 3 weekends, and then will be made available through video on demand. AMC will get a portion of the video on demand profits. What I couldn't figure out is if the movie would then release to all video on demand services or if it only debut on AMC's video on demand service. Because that was something AMC started pushing too, is that, they realize video on demand is a market that people are trying to go. They want to see stuff at their home through Netflix or other streaming platforms. So AMC is trying to get a piece of that pie. They now have their own video on demand service through AMC's app.
Oh,
So
they
you
have
can
an app
watch-
that has. Wow. Okay.
I mean, it's the same one you use to look up movie times and buy tickets.
Yeah.
There's a
okay.
video on demand section now.
Yes.
So I'm still unclear if it hits, if you can watch this stuff on Amazon after 17 days or just AMC's website after 17 days. Because somewhere in there too, Cinemark made the same deal with an altered release date, altered release window to 17 days before stuff hits on demand. So if Cinemark's part of it, Cinemark does not have their own video on demand service. So how would Cinemark get the cut of the profits, which is weird to me? Would that come from, if AMC has the video on demand stuff, does Cinemark get a piece of AMC's profits that come from using their service? That, I don't know. That's weird to me. So it's got to, I feel like it's got to hit everything. It's probably Amazon, whatever else you rent from Apple, from the Apple TV or AMC, or whether it's Comcast. I don't know if it'd go through Comcast on-demand service too, if that's probably part of it.
I mean, they probably want to make it.
so,
owns
yeah.
the other companies, a couple of them anyways.
Yeah, doesn't Comcast
Yeah,
own
so-
Universal, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, true. Right.
But at the same time, instead of making it as narrowly focused as we'll talk about in a moment with other companies, I would think, especially at that point, you would want to make it as widely available as possible.
right.
If it's still a a charge per view model, you're going to want to put it on as many platforms as you possibly could.
Yeah. So theaters are okay with this type of deal because they get then a percentage or some sort of cut on these video on demand rentals that presumably still happen within the 90-day theatrical window. And then after those 90 days, then it can, go to be bought home video. You can buy a physical disc probably and own it. It's not just rental services anymore. Then you can own the movie for yourself after those 90 days. And then as theaters began to struggle and we're getting closer to the summer blockbuster season, coronavirus numbers began to fall. People thought we'd be okay to get back to the theater. Warner Brothers was starting to push Christopher Nolan's Tenet as the movie that would bring people back to the theater. It was released on September 3rd, and Tenet bombed. It opened to only $20 million domestically, and at this time has only made $58 million domestically from the box office. It has grossed about $360 million worldwide, where theaters are a little bit safer to go overseas, but it's still nowhere near what Warner Brothers wanted for a movie that was supposed to kickstart the movie season. At the time, Warner Brothers had already delayed Wonder Woman 1984 from the summer to October. And then after Tenet's box office, they pushed Wonder Woman all the way back to Christmas Day. And we'll get to that in a little bit. Disney had pushed Mulan to September, which was supposed to release the same time in the summer as Tenet, and then they pushed that to September also. Set to release around the same time. After seeing Tenet's box office, Disney tried a different approach. They pulled the movie from theaters, released it to subscribers on Disney+. However, for the first 3 months on Disney+, it would cost an additional $30 to watch Mulan. It was a $30 rental.
Which,
right?
Yeah.
Josh, was it a rental or did you buy it?
No, well, it was kind of weird because this was such like the first example into this kind of model attempt, because you were basically paying for advanced access to the property, because had the world gone like normal after the typical 90-day theatrical release, Disney probably would have put Mulan on Disney Plus almost immediately for its subscribers. Right. So had it released in July, in an alternate world like it was supposed to, it probably would have been on Disney Plus to its subscribers by October or November anyway. In the end, you were basically paying $30 for a 3-month advanced access to it, and you would have it for that entire 3 months.
Okay.
At which point, and I think it happened just this past, like a week ago, so it then became free and accessible to all Disney Plus subscribers as of like December the 4th, I think.
Right. Yeah, beginning of December. Yeah, it hit Disney Plus for free. So if you were paying for Disney Plus, it is there to watch now. You don't have to pay the $30, what they called like their premium access,
I believe,
or something, premium price point, something like that.
Yeah, I think they call it Premier Access.
That's what it was. Yeah. So Josh, I'm assuming you tried Mulan when it hit Disney Plus?
We did not.
Okay. All right. Did anybody else actually watch Disney or Mulan for the $30 rental?
No, $30 is just astronomical. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, okay. Because I still think at the time, like when it hit September, we're still like, okay, we're going to get through this by the end of the year or the beginning of next year, and we'll be back to theaters. Like things are starting to get a little bit better, so we can probably see the light at the end of the tunnel. Obviously, then shit got worse.
Right, and I will say for us, I think it was a different experience than what was being offered from other things like Bill and Ted and with Trolls and some other things, which was, I knew, I mean, I know this is like the whole reason for this topic basically, but I knew that the money was not going to anybody else. I was paying Disney directly just to have access to something through a media channel that I already pay them for, that I just have to be patient and wait, and I'll get it for free.
Right.
Whereas I know, like with other things, if I'm paying at least, I mean, I know AMC is the behemoth chain in the country, and even if it's just going to that one, like nobody else was getting a cut of that. So to me, I wasn't necessarily getting, plus Mulan was not being released theatrically.
Right.
They
so that would have been, that's for the first 3 months, that was the only way to watch it. $30 through Disney Plus, and you can see it.
Precisely. So yeah, for us, that particular type of setup was not worth it for us. If it had been different, where, well, it's in theaters, but we don't really feel like it's safe to go yet, and maybe we would consider it.
Yeah.
For $30, I wouldn't even go see a premiere in the theater. For me and Jess, I wouldn't pay $30 to go.
Well, how much do you pay for a movie ticket?
It's probably like $10 each.
So I mean, it's comparable. So you're paying $30 for 2 people to watch it, which is, obviously maybe with a $10 price point, $10 more than what you'd normally spend.
Sure.
But
I'm not
they're
getting
grouping.
I'm
they're
not
putting the
getting
spice in there, assuming that a family is watching this movie.
Okay.
They're not. That price point is not for a single use person.
But you're not getting like the theatrical like sound. You're not getting like the darkening of the lights. You're not getting crowd reactions.
True.
You're not
even the quality of picture.
You're not getting any of that
on your own
right
setup.
And with this one specifically, the reason this one is different than some of the others is this was, you pay it once and you have it for 3 months. It's not a 48-hour rental that you can really only watch kind of once. So if you wanted to watch Mulan several times over the next 3 months before it's gonna, in this case, it's going to become available to you for free, because you can't even, gain access to pay the extra money until you've paid money upfront to be a subscriber to the service anyway. That's kind of the trade-off is like, yeah, it's maybe $20 just for the movie tickets, but that's a single viewing and you're done. I guess that's the difference they were trying to push with this.
I think one of the silly things about it with this model is that, especially for Disney Plus, which is a subscription service that costs roughly $5-6 still, right?
A month? I think so.
It's something like that.
$7?
Maybe. We did the advanced long-term thing, so I'm not sure what the current cost is.
I know if you did that, it was like $4 a month even. It was even less, like if you got in and you signed up for X amount of time ahead of time. But I'm talking for somebody to sign up for like that single month to start the subscription. If it's $7, that's fine. But that means at some point there's a day at which you can look at Mulan and say, I can pay $30 for that today, or I can pay $7 tomorrow and have a month of Disney Plus and watch it for that $7 I just paid. At some point, there's a day that decision exists, which is, like, to me, that's a zero-sum decision. There's no way you're going to do that. And there's no avoiding it, because there's always got to be that cutoff day where it's, for that service, you're either getting the whole service for a much less price the next day, or just, sign up, get the service and the movie. I don't know.
Well, that's the experiment for Disney. Like, every time they put something on Disney Plus, it seems like they're trying something different because they want to see what works for their model.
Right.
And Mulan was the only one that they've charged for so far. Anything else that they've seemed to take from theater to put on Disney Plus has just been there for subscribers. We were talking before the show, Andy mentioned Onward. I kind of forgot about that one. That one went to Disney Plus and skipped the theater and was free for subscribers.
Yep.
I'm assuming this model either did not work well enough for them or they're still experimenting with stuff, because after Mulan, another one of their big releases that was supposed to come out this year in the theater was Pixar's Soul, which has now rotated to Disney Plus and is going to hit Christmas Day free for Disney Plus subscribers. There's no premium price point there. Mm-hmm. It's just going to be there. So they're still rolling the dice, I think, on a lot of stuff, trying to figure out what works and what they can get away with. But spinning back to Warner Brothers, I mean, they're the first studio or the latest studio that's going to try their experiment. So there's a bunch of rumors of Wonder Woman 1984 possibly going to HBO Max. Everyone involved with the movie continued to say it would release in theaters, which is technically true. Warner Brothers announced that Wonder Woman 1984 would release in theaters and HBO Max for subscribers on Christmas Day. The catch is that the movie is only available on HBO Max for 30 days, and then it continues to play only in theaters to finish its 90-day theatrical window. And then after that, it would probably go to normal video-on-demand stuff before coming back to HBO Max, which means go through the whole rental process, the buying process, and at some point later come back to HBO Max. We've talked a few times already on the show about what movies got the release date shifted. Since then, most of these movies have been shuffled around again. We haven't been updating every time this happens because it was happening so frequently that we can't keep track of this crap anymore. But the majority of them have all been pushed to next year. So everything that was basically due out this year has been pushed, as long as they still wanted it in the theater, has been pushed to 2021. With the pandemic ongoing, every studio continued to push back their movies or find other digital distribution models. So, we all started to ask ourselves, and it was sort of the basis for what we were going to try to talk about for this episode, was like, which studio will be the next one to release a big blockbuster movie on some sort of streaming service? And we were tossing around the idea how to frame the question, how to figure out our topic to fuel this discussion. And then Warner Brothers answered that question for us by dropping a bombshell last week, saying that their entire slate of movies to be released in 2021 would be hitting HBO Max the same day it hits theaters. This model that they're using for this whole slate is basically the same one they used for Wonder Woman 1984. HBO Max will get the film for free for 30 days, and then it will leave the service and continue to play in theaters to finish its theatrical window, and then hit regular video on demand, eventually come back to HBO Max. It's unclear how long those windows are, but that seems to be the plan. So, of the movies that are coming to HBO Max in 2021 from Warner Brothers, there's 17 movies on the list. So I have movies and release dates. Some of these I don't really know what they are, and I didn't take the time to actually look them up. But we have The Little Things, which is due January 29th. Tom and Jerry, which is the Looney Tunes live-action / cartoon animated hybrid movie that they're trying to do. March 5th. The Many Saints of Newark, which I'm pretty sure I read is actually a prequel for The Sopranos. It's a prequel movie for The Sopranos.
Yeah.
So that's March 12th. Reminiscence, which I'm not sure what that is, April 6th. Godzilla vs. Kong, which is a big contender that we're going to talk about in a little bit for something else. That's May 21st. And again, these are all the theatrical release dates that they were supposed to have. So we're assuming that those dates are holding, and they're just going to go to HBO Max that day. We haven't heard anything about release dates shifting at all. Next we have The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, June 4th. In the Heights, June 18th. One that I'm actually kind of excited about because I've seen nothing about it other than hearing about it, and I just want to see what the hell this movie is like. Space Jam, A New Legacy, July 16th. The Suicide Squad, August 6th. Our boy Denny V in his movie Dune, October 1st. Apparently there is an Elvis movie, November 5th.
Oh, shit.
King Richard, November 19th. The Matrix 4, December 22nd. 4 movies do not have release dates yet. Judas and the Black Messiah, Malignant, Those Who Wish Me Dead, and apparently Warner Brothers is making a Mortal Kombat movie, and that's coming out sometime next year.
Yeah, that James Wan is involved in, I believe.
I was going to say, did you not
Finish
see
it.
the cast was leaked?
Fatality.
Or not leaked,
I feel
but
like
the cast was put out there as to who they've cast for certain
I feel like I
roles.
saw a headline for it at some place and like meant to look at it or something and then completely forgot about it and heard nothing about it since then. And then just it's on the list of movies coming out. I was like, oh shit, that's right, that's a thing.
The only one I can remember off the top of my head is the guy that plays Hogan in the Thor movies.
Okay.
Is going to be Scorpion.
Well, we're definitely going to have to come back to this on another episode because that's going to be a fun conversation.
All right, so needless to say, this decision sent shockwaves through the movie industry. Not only were there movie theater chains blindsided by this announcement, but the creative people making these movies had no idea this was going to fucking happen. Actors and directors and other creatives that have been calling their agents incessantly, especially those that have deals in place that reward them based on box office performance. Directors, of course, want their movie shown in theaters because that's where it was made to be shown. And if people were worried about pirating the movie before, Warner Brothers just gave the internet a pristine version of the movie to pirate. As soon as it hits HBO Max, they're going to be copied and spread around the internet like wildfire. Jumping back to Christopher Nolan, who Warner Brothers had so much faith in his movie that it would re-energize the movie industry. He was quoted as saying, "Some of our industry's biggest filmmakers and most important movie stars went to bed the night before thinking they were working for the greatest movie studio and woke up to find out they were working for the worst streaming service." So he's not happy. It doesn't sound like Warner Brothers made any friends with their announcement. So this is from the director who worked with Warner Brothers. Christopher Nolan worked with Warner Brothers since 2002, and he's firing back at the studio, basically saying, "Fuck you guys, what the hell are you thinking?"
He's been with them since,
latest,
like, Memento or Insomnia, right?
Insomnia, I think was the one they listed, yeah.
Prestige was theirs, probably. Like, especially since, like, Batman,
Yeah.
like, probably everything he's done has been under them.
Yes. Josh actually just sent me this today. Our boy Denny V, director of Dune, wrote an editorial for Variety where he said he was also surprised that the movie he made for theater will suddenly end up on HBO Max. He directs his anger at Warner Brothers' parent company AT&T.
Yep.
And how they're more than $150 billion in the hole and need HBO Max to be successful to recoup some of those costs. So his anger isn't so much directed at Warner Brothers, it's directed at the people above Warner Brothers, and they're, trying to appease Wall Street type of thing. The other thing that's been going on recently too, Legendary Entertainment, the production company that co-financed Dune and Godzilla vs. Kong, is on the verge of taking legal action against Warner Brothers over their decision. Their argument is that Warner Brothers basically got their films on HBO Max for free. At probably a couple weeks before this announcement, and this is, I think, Mike was telling me about this before, and I kept telling him, it's rumors, we're going to wait and see what happens. Netflix was rumored to offer Legendary $250 million to get Godzilla vs. Kong on their service.
Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Before Legendary could give them an answer, Warner Media, the parent company of Warner Brothers, stepped in and said, no, you're not doing that. They blocked the offer, said this isn't happening. A few weeks later, the movie drops on HBO Max to the surprise of Legendary Entertainment, who had no idea this was going to happen.
And probably don't get any kind of money bump for that. Like,
Right.
they
There's
lost out
been
on
no-
$250 million.
Yeah, there's been no offer to be like, we're going to put that movie on HBO Max for this amount of money. They just said it's dropping there, and we'll figure it out later. So currently, they are negotiating to see if Warner Brothers can just buy the films from Legendary in order to let Legendary recoup some of those costs for the film and allow Warner Brothers to do whatever they want with the film. What I don't know is if somewhere in the fine print that means the director, the crew, the talent, that they would get compensated in some way in that deal, or if it's basically just Warner Brothers covering Legendary and that's it. Like, all these people are pissed off, and there's...
Well,
I feel like the more
pays
you look at this... What's that?
I was just wondering who pays them would come into that. Are they paid by Legendary? Legendary would still then be required to pay them.
I think
Yeah, so I don't know if like the cost for the movie to put it on the service covers the talent, or if that's a separate issue. That's, I guess, what I'm not sure.
No, I meant like if Legendary contracts them, Legendary is required to pay them. They contract them.
True.
So if
My-
they have the
my-
money, they got to pay them.
Yeah, my guess is that it's a little murkier too, because Warner Brothers is probably both a producer and a distributor. So for like Legendary, they're distributing Legendary's creation.
Right.
So Legendary, yes, is probably like I imagine that something has already happened that will cover production costs. You know, what are the salaries? What are this or that? That is probably
Right.
covered. But as you know, Brian is saying, like all those extras that can come along with, well, in my contract it says I get X percentage bump for, you know, reaching
If the
these
movie
box
makes-
office
yeah.
milestones
Yeah.
and whatnot. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Which
I
I
can't imagine how they're gonna try to work
I
around.
feel
that.
like, you know, Warner Brothers could skirt that issue legally because the movies are releasing in theaters. It's not like they're skipping theaters altogether, and there's not a chance that the actors or
True.
talent can get that percentage.
Right.
It's just that if you put them in theaters during a pandemic and also put the movie on HBO Max where subscribers watch it for free, and then it's probably going to hit the internet where people that really want to find it can find it for free, there's less people going to the box office. These movies are not going to make money at the box office. So anyone dependent on box office returns are going to get fucked.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if things are, say, like it's going to be even more stark, in my opinion, if things get safer to do in the second half of the year, but
Yeah.
you're also telling a lot of people, well, to be fair, HBO Max has like 9 million subscribers, I think I heard, as compared to tens of millions for Disney Plus, and I think globally, I think I heard Netflix is up to like 200 or 300 million. But
Jeez.
even in those cases, you think, if you're giving it to me for free for 30 days, I'm the type of person who, like, number one, why would I go spend extra money that I don't have to? And why
Right.
would I leave the house? So even come
Right.
like Dune time in October, right, there's a lot of people who could go back to the theater probably by that point who are still going to opt out.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like the more you look at this, the more it looks like this decision is going to cost Warner Brothers even more money that they apparently don't have to begin with. So you start to wonder if this decision is actually going to pay itself off anytime soon. So that's about all the details I wanted to cover to try to get us to where we're at. So trying to dive into this, like, what do you think of Warner Brothers' decision to put all these movies on HBO Max? We'll just start there. Generally, how do you feel about this? Yay or nay type of thing for this decision?
As a consumer who has a subscription to HBO Max, I think it's really awesome that I get access to these movies right away. Would I rather see these movies in the theater? Probably, just because the experience is so much better. And I'm not saying that my experience at home is bad or any kind of thing like that, but you
Yeah.
can't beat like the screen and the darkening of the room, and then just like there's no distractions. That's the only thing you're doing. You know,
Yeah. I agree.
it's awesome that I don't have to go out and spend the money. I don't have to like I can be comfortable in like PJs or something, or
So if given
whatever.
the option, like Josh was saying, dude comes out October. Let's say October, people are getting vaccinated. It's a little bit safer to go to the theaters. Theaters are obviously still trying to keep it as clean, as safe as possible to get people in the door. If say you like Dune enough to watch it a couple times at home, but you're like, you know what, I want that theater experience. Would you actually take the chance to go to the theater in that like 60-day window between HBO Max and home video release to go see it?
Speaking just for myself, I'm in a household with 2 professional adults with no kids, and our economic means would not be really challenged for us to spend the extra money at a movie theater, even if a free option is available at a time when it is safe to do so.
So you do the theater route.
I mean, Sarah and I have already said many times, like, as soon as it is very clear, and to preface this, like, where we're coming from, we have been extraordinarily conservative about how we view the safety of being in the public. So we're really just like, we've been hermits pretty much for 10 months. So that being said, once it got to the point where it is publicly cleared that, look, everything is safe now, it's okay to start getting back out in public, go ahead and do things, people. Once that moment comes, we've said, even with these things, we will be back at the theater weekly the moment that there's shit to see.
Well, I know, Josh, you're one of the people, because I ended up doing this too last year. I think it was the first year I did it. But signing up for the AMC subscription service to go see 3 movies a week at the theater. So eventually that's going to start kicking in again when theaters are safe to go back to and starts ramping up again. I'm going to be charged for going to be able to see 3 movies a week if I want to. And really, hypothetically, I guess, even if I just let that charge go, I'm still sort of helping to support theaters a little bit, even if I'm watching this stuff all at home for free.
Sure.
Through HBO Max.
And I mean, I've thought about that the last couple of weeks too, and I've thought specifically with a theater subscription type service, because I know Cinemark has their own, and I'm sure there's maybe some other chains around the country that do similar things. I wouldn't be surprised if, in reaction to these things, in response to how long that industry has, been hurt by everything that's happened, I wouldn't be shocked if they say, look, I know people probably liked this, but we got to do a modified version of this. Like, either we're going to have to up prices for a while, or we're going to have to like limit you to 1 movie per week. And honestly, I don't, there might have been twice in like a year and a half of us doing that program that we ever went to the theater more than once in the same week.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
So like, and I'd be absolutely willing to accept those things. I think it's like, perspective is what is needed more than anything in, like, as we hopefully get, see the light at the end of the tunnel throughout of all of this. And I'm not going to bitch and moan if they say, oh, guess what? We have to up your $20 per month charge, or we have to limit what you're allowed to see, etc. Like, I'm not going to care.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the gist of it is, like, I want to support my theaters, and I don't want these things to close and don't come back. When we are safe to go out and see movies again, I want theaters to be there, ready to open or already open, that I can actually go there, and they're not closed because they weren't getting business.
I think
so. If that's what it takes,
important thing to keep in mind is when it's safe,
right?
When it's actually safe, and that's going to be the big swing. Is when is it going to actually be safe? We don't know. Will it be in time for Dune? Hopefully.
Yeah.
But for me personally, it'll be something where I'll probably let the rest of the world get back to normal before I do.
That's fair.
I'll let a bunch of other people go out there, and once people are out there again, and it doesn't cause another great big spike in things and problems going on, and once people try to go back to normal and it doesn't have a bunch of negative repercussions, that's when I would say, okay, it's time to go back to normal. For me, personally.
Yeah.
That's not me not wanting to go to the movie theater. I want to be there. I want to do it. But I'd just rather be safe about the whole thing.
Absolutely.
and as far as, my own personal stance on it, I think it's a good thing what HBO Max is doing as a customer. I'm not you guys. I don't go to the movie theater weekly. I go when there's something I want to see.
Yeah.
So, Warner Brothers putting these movies on HBO Max means I'll watch more of them sooner than I would have, because a lot of these movies I'm not going to the theater for.
Yeah.
Like I'm Tom and Jerry. I would not be going to the theater to see that, but if it's on HBO Max that first day, I'll probably watch it because I'll have nothing else to fucking do. New movie. On that list, there's probably 5 or 6 that I would go to the theater for. And other than that, the rest of that list, I would probably watch day one now instead of God knows when.
Yeah. Andy, what do you think theater-wise for you? Do you see yourself going to the theater at all during any of this stuff, or waiting like Mike until it's let other people go first?
I miss going to the theater greatly. I think it's a really fun experience, and just seeing movies in the theater is awesome. Like I'll even see like old movies in the theater. Last year, we went to see Christmas Vacation in the theater, and it was awesome. Like I don't know that I've ever seen that in the theater. It was a really cool experience. So, if it's safe, I think, I'll definitely be returning to the theaters.
Okay. I guess more to the point, do you think theaters are going to recover from this?
I hope so.
Eventually. I think when you brought this up before, and my response to you when we talked about it briefly, I want to say was that Monday? It might have been.
Sounds right.
But drive-ins are still out there. They still exist.
Right. Yeah.
It's still a thing. I don't. Maybe movie theaters become less popular, but they'll still be there. They're not going anywhere. There's still enough people like us that love that theater experience. It's a thing. It's an event. It's not just plop on the couch and watch a movie. People want to go and pay $10 for popcorn for God knows what reason. But no, it is. It's an event. It's a family event. It's something that's not going to come out of Americana just because they had to shut down for a while. Somebody will pick up. If AMC and Cinemark go out of business, so be it. Another company will open theaters.
Yeah.
And a lot of families use like movies as like a special occasion. I know my family, like if it was your birthday month, you got to choose a movie to go to during your birthday month, and the whole family would go see said movie. And I feel like we're sort of missing that like special occasion, like dinner and movie. It's like you're almost missing like an opportune date night at that point too.
Yeah.
For like Match.com or eHarmony or whatever. Like
fair point.
Yeah, what is
a
it?
little bit of
Zoom
Grindr
calls
in
at
the
this
back of the
point?
theater.
Yeah,
watch
like
digital Zoom watch along screen shares.
Yeah, screen shares, and you just.
I gotta tell you,
that was
digital
a good
Grindr
movie.
is not the
same.
Skype calls with Grindr, it doesn't work.
I hope theaters recover. I really do.
I mean, I could see some branches closing. Like, there's
Right.
3 or 4 AMCs around me. I could see a couple of them going and just the main one sticking around. Like, I don't think Lowe's is going to, like, the waterfront's going to close. But there's one in Delmont. There's one in Greensburg. I don't feel like they get very... Okay, so Delmont's gone.
Delmont's going to be a busy beaver here any minute.
I would say Cinemark at the Mills is gone, which means the Mills is basically gone because it's the only thing people went to that entire mall for.
The Mills has been gone for a while, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure somebody bought that.
Yeah.
I feel like Greensburg would be the next theater to go. I don't see that one sticking around by the mall.
There might be one. It just so happens like right where we moved is very close to South Hills Village Mall, and there was an AMC there already, like in the mall parking lot. There was a multiplex there. There happened to be a Carmike a mile down the road inside the Galleria. Like, I guess they call it a mall. To me, it's like a bigger building with stores to shop at. It doesn't seem like this doesn't feel like a traditional mall. Anyway, when AMC acquired and bought Carmike, they then bought that theater as well. It was theirs.
Yeah.
So they have two different ones a mile apart. I could probably see, if anything were to, possibly the one at the Galleria going. It's smaller. It's like nestled inside the mall. It's only like 3 or 4 screens. I don't know. I think it's a shame that a certain series of events pushed things to this point. And Brian, something you said very early on is absolutely right, that I'm sure the distributors and the content producers would have looked for a way to increase their cut, minimize their costs, get things to consumers more directly. From their perspective, they've probably been clamoring for that for a decade or more.
Yeah.
I understand. In retrospect, I think AMC, I wouldn't say they blew the Trolls thing out of proportion, because at the time, there's no way we all could have guessed 10 months later this is where we would be.
Right.
Like, we thought by May, we're fine. So everyone just hold your shit for a month and we'll be fine.
Yeah, that decision to put Trolls on premiere at home was unprecedented at that point too. So I feel
Very
like
much.
they needed to make that move.
I think it was too last minute. I think that's the issue.
Because it was
Is
supposed
that
to be
at the-
theatrical, like right at the time.
Right. It's that turn heel right when theaters are gearing up to have a release and planning for that, and then it just like, nope, by the way, you're not getting this. We're gonna put it here now.
Like, it could have
I
been
feel
one
like-
extra thing available had things been okay to do. Like, May opens up. Okay, well, Trolls got delayed a few weeks, but hey, kids, families, bring your kids back, and we're all
Right.
doing this again.
Personally, I come down on that. I come down on the other side of, AMC. Suck it up and deal with what's going on in the world and fuck your profits for a bit.
At that time,
Yes,
yes,
get over it.
And again, in retrospect, I think, with the sort of the decision with Onward that we mentioned, Onward was out for like a week, and I think Disney's decision to do it was not. This is complete conjecture, but was not as much trying to test out any of these waters whatsoever. It was, this movie that we've been promoting for 6 months just came out, and theaters are going to be closed for the next month and a half due to an event that hasn't happened for a century. We're going to try to give the US, at least, I don't know if they released it globally, whoever has access to Disney Plus, but it was basically a goodwill move for the world. Like, shit is serious and nobody knows how to react to this right now. Okay, world, here's something for the next, you're going to be inside for the next 3 or 4 weeks at the minimum at this point. Take this world, have something to smile about. The Trolls move then that followed later, I feel could still fall into those waters as well. And yes, they're charging for it, but they weren't like Disney. They weren't a producer and a distributor and had an access channel themselves and all that. They didn't, Universal didn't have the infrastructure in place to be all those things. They weren't that vertically integrated.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think at the time AMC probably blew it out of proportion, but I understand both sides of the coin. Over the next 8 to 9 months, though, I think a combination of the public's, I unfortunately have to generalize it this way just because this is how it's played out. If we would have all accepted, and by all, not just the 4 of us, but the country at large especially, would have accepted, here's the rules we need to follow. We need to do it for this period of time, and we are all going to accept, effectively, the public debt that comes along with supporting everybody who cannot earn a living for the time period needed until this solution is reached and this issue is resolved. That's effectively, in my mind, that's what should have happened. There should have been a complete agreement on, okay, these industries have to shut down. We need to take care of the people who can no longer earn a living as a result of them mandating being out of work. Right. And theaters, especially, were one of those industries that had this back and forth and jostle, and the content providers and the distributors tried their own things and whatnot. And that each little thing that they tried, like Milan, like Tenet, some of the bigger companies either took that as evidence of something that they were theorizing, or like you said, they just used it as an excuse to go ahead and execute something they'd been holding out for years.
Which I think that's a lot of it too, yeah.
And now, Warner has taken the plunge and put them in this position. If there was, and Mike sort of alluded to it earlier, but I think this is honestly what played into it the most. Movie theaters, like several other industries, should never have been reopened yet. And again, publicly, we all should have supported those who could no longer work in those industries for that time period. And because of that, if a Disney or a Universal or an HBO, AT&T, Time Warner, whoever the hell they are, if they then said, look, the traditional place that we give these things is not even available, and it's better for us all that it's not available right now. We're still going to give you this entertainment. We're going to give you this content. And maybe we're putting it on our streaming service. Maybe you're getting it for free. Maybe there's a VOD charge for it. Maybe we're going to work with, and my personal feeling is I think they should have worked with the Theater Owners Association, which is a nationwide large trade group, to say, we're going to come up with some kind of universal agreement or infrastructure to offer these things, and here's the revenue sharing.
Yeah.
If they would have sort of centralized it so that you also don't just favor AMC, which is already the largest company, because your one-off small theaters chains, even like it's like Cinemark, do they have a VOD option now?
I don't think they do, but I haven't checked, to be honest.
So
probably not.
So if they don't, that's the second largest chain in the country, and they don't even have that infrastructure. So there's no way your mom and pop theaters are going to do that. It doesn't matter if AMC gets all of the, Premier Access VOD rentals, and it's online.
If I remember right, I think
no one else is going to have access to that.
I think AMC's video on demand thing through their app or service or whatever it is, I'm pretty sure that went online right around the time Universal tried this bullshit.
I feel pretty much, because I thought I remember The Hunt being one of the first, like that, and Bloodshot being,
which all released around the same time.
Right around mid-March, yeah.
So it was like once, AMC started to see Universal do this, they're like, whoa, wait, we have to have an avenue for this stuff to come to us too. You're not just going to jump us completely. We need to have a place to go if you want to do video on demand stuff. And then again, something was probably in the works that they were just like, nope, we have to do this right now because this is where it's happening. So I think, everybody's been forced to just do stuff ahead of schedule, which, and now we're all just they're all scrambling to figure out how this works together. Like, these things were going to happen anyway, but now that they're happening ahead of time, how, it's not part of their ultimate plan to do it now. So now it's like, well, they're trying to almost retcon it or reverse engineer how this stuff is going to work together, instead of everyone just trying to one-up each other.
And I think you're right. The idea that they're going to back into, well, it's still available technically in theaters. Yeah, at a time where, like, we're all here in the state of Pennsylvania, where we just all effectively went back to nearly 75% of the initial lockdown that we had in March.
Well, right. and I think,
people aren't going to go to the damn movie theater.
Well, and this is something I was going to say earlier, but
actually they can't now. Theaters are ordered to close as of midnight tonight that we're recording this.
I think it's something where, we've talked a lot about them looking to find out what's going to work for them. They're looking at all this data. They're looking at trying this out, trying that out, and all this stuff. And none of the data they get from this whole deal is going to be relevant once it's over.
I think the difference is if they get it in the door now and people get addicted to or accustomed to having stuff on their phone or, at their home available day and date release with the theater, no one's going to want to go to the theater.
I get that, but I don't think it's still going to be a consistent expectation that they can have based off of data they get now where everybody's already just at home.
Right, but that's going to be their justification for doing it later. So when we're finally safe to go back to the theater, they're going to point to all this stuff, regardless if it's relevant or not, because people are forced to stay home. They're going to say, this is working, this is where the money is. And not to mention, you know for a fact that the people that are going to get access to this stuff now, when stuff is safe, these are going to be the same people bitching that this stuff is not available to them now that we are safe and they can go somewhere. If you're going to start telling
I will
people,
absolutely be one of those people.
Yeah, if you want to, the stuff that all these movies that are, especially the stuff that's going to come out in 2021, say October is good to go and everybody's back in theaters. Warner Brothers is going to be probably, at this point it seems like, the only studio that's going to be putting stuff day and date release on demand and in theater. So every other studio is probably going to be hearing it from someone, some consumer somewhere, that why isn't this stuff available to me just like this other stuff is right now? Now, granted, those studios that are putting stuff in theaters are going to make friends with the creators of said movies because they are doing what they intended. There is more box office revenue there. That's a better way to get profits for the movie. Everyone behind the scenes agrees. It's the consumers that are going to get pissed. Those are the ones that are going to complain on the internet. And that's when changes get made because assholes just like to complain on the internet about whatever the fuck they want to, and somehow they get their way.
I mean, I feel like I said, in this case, we'll see things are going to change for sure. How much is going to be the question at the end of it. And like you're saying, with them using the data to try and push what they want, I mean, movie studios have, if they believe they can make the same amount of money off of putting things at home, they'll go for it. I honestly still don't believe they can.
No, and I don't think so either. I think that's the other linchpin in this, is that as much as theaters and studios want to fight each other on how to distribute movies, they need each other to distribute movies. These movies have to go to a theater to recoup and make a profit. I can't imagine that they are...
That's the only thing, except it depends. If you're looking at straight revenue, perhaps not, but they might also be avoiding a certain amount of a chunk of costs associated with exhibiting films, that if they're saving that, then even though they're bringing in less revenue, they could still be turning the same profit.
So even ballpark...
Or at least a profit that they're happy with.
Right. A movie like Dune, traditionally speaking, big blockbuster movie costs, we'll say, $200 million to make. You put that in the theater, I feel like within the first 2 weekends, you're going to figure out if that movie was a hit or not, and whether or not they made their money back, how much of a profit they made. And traditionally, good reviewed, good word of mouth blockbusters could make $500 million to $1 billion. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're going to get that return, even if they cut some costs releasing it straight to their own video on demand service. They're not going to get that money back.
And the big difference with HBO's move, somewhat differently than what Disney Plus tried, is that I mean, you basically go to the Netflix model, which is there is no way, I can't assume, I mean, unless you really dig into data, but there's no way to assume or conclude that a particular offering or even set of offerings is the reason that somebody gave you those subscription dollars.
For something like Disney, they could make an assumption based on what they did with Mulan. It's probably why they looked at it that way, is they could say, okay, so after Mulan came, how many people paid for it? And then they can see how many people then signed up and also paid for Mulan.
Sure.
And how many signed up and didn't. And
sure.
They could attribute that in that one-off instance. They had that opportunity, but they'll never have it again.
Correct.
Well, I'm sure Warner Brothers is going to be watching their subscription numbers on Christmas Day to see who buys into this service for Wonder Woman.
Which I agree.
True.
But and I think the comments that Nolan and Denny V made in their editor in their comments, which seriously, we'll go back to the page, the show page on Facebook or Twitter, and look at those interviews. They do not parse words. They if they were ever worried about biting the hand that feeds, their hand just got bit the F off, but they didn't
Which
care.
makes me wonder if they will ever actually work for Warner Brothers again. Like, did Warner Brothers just lose two very big name directors
Quite
for
possibly.
their studio?
And I mean, the difference.
Not to mention like the talent, actors wise. Like, if it were me, if I were like a big time actor and I expected to be on the big screen, I mean, that's a big career thing for maybe like a newer actor or like a mid-range actor to put yourself out there on a big screen, that could be something that turns you from like a C-list actor to like a B or an A-list actor. That could be your big break. And then all of a sudden you are now a made-for-TV movie actor. Not
To some
being
degree,
made-for-TV movie actors, but to a degree you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said the difference with HBO's attempt at this is the comments that both Nolan and Denny V made were this is purely because this product you've sank all this money into and that you have up is not doing the business that you thought it would yet, and you are just doing this to drive hopeful subscribers to that particular thing. And there's little to, in my eyes, there's very little confidence that you could derive in the statistics in looking at subscription trends around the releases of those things.
Yeah, I feel like
and especially to do the accounting and say, oh, well, this movie cost $400 million to make and to pay people and to do marketing. How do we determine whether we made that back or not in X number of subscribers that we're just estimating out of the air? I'm sorry, Andy.
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
feel like
terms
the
of-
board or committee they're all just sort of like, come on, lucky number 7. Come on, 7. Crossing their fingers and just hoping to God that this works. I mean, they're already, $150 billion in
That's
debt?
AT&T.
No, but still.
And that's probably due to
their
a lot
parent.
of a lot of investment in this kind of thing, a lot of investment in acquisitions. They just keep buying other companies.
They keep buying stuff, and none of it's paying off. Like, no decision they make in this realm of what we're talking about will make them back that money.
No,
in my
no,
opinion.
and that's why I don't think it has
No.
anything to do with it. Like, personally, I think that's what they're targeting is like, oh, HBO Max is failing. And don't get me wrong, Christopher Nolan, Denny, they make great movies, but on this, I fall on the other side of this with them. Because they're blaming it on the wrong thing. Okay? Like, why are they doing this? Because if they put these movies in theaters, they're not going to make a fucking dime. And they want to release them, and what are they going to do when they finally can release movies again and have people in the theater? Pack all these movies into the same month, and then they're not going to make a fucking dime.
Well, yeah, I guess that's the flip side of it. But to Nolan and Denny V's point, they're completely happy delaying their movie another year if it means it's going to make it to a theater. And I don't even know. I mean, Tenet underperformed. It did not make a lot of money, but I didn't see anything about Christopher Nolan talking about being disappointed in his box office returns for Tenet.
I'm sure he
doesn't
no.
care about box office returns. Doesn't affect him.
If they're dependent on something for how much that movie makes in theater, he's got to be pissed off if it didn't make a lot of money.
I'm guessing if any, yeah, there's
Why
no way
would it
that
have
he
made money.
there's no way he wasn't. But at that point, what are you going to do? Bitch and moan to the world that's dealing with a global virus?
Yeah.
That's having.
Shake
But
your
I mean,
right,
fist at
but
the
I think-
virus
I think the
and say,
artistic-
"Ah."
He took it diplomatically.
The artist
He-
in these people wants the films to go where they intend
Right.
them to be made. So whether or not it gets released in theaters during the middle of a pandemic and nobody sees it, it still made it to a theater. You're still satisfying the artist.
which I agree,
and that's
I also, again, I do believe that you could soften the blow that these creators are feeling by, at the very minimum, feel like you are spreading the benefit of money spent to view their product to as many people as possible. So if it's the difference between it barely being seen by anyone in theaters and it going to 10 to 15 million HBO subscribers,
Right.
as opposed to, look, here is a central place that the theater industry is temporarily a part of. And even though many of you will not see this in the intended environment, we know that the benefit is going to be shared among the rest of the industry that has supported us for 130 years, as opposed to just this one company unilaterally making this choice and limiting any windfall just to them.
Well, I mean, to Mike's point too, like if they delay the movies another year, we're going to get to a point where all these movies that got delayed this year and get delayed next year and keeps getting pushed, we're going to hit a bottleneck of all these movies just have to be released all back to back together.
To some degree, but
I think
we're also still at the point.
Make money when they do that.
They may be, but we're also at the point where very little new can be produced. So at some point you will have an evening period. Well, and
you got to remember, not the rest of the world isn't dealing with this the same way that we are. And a lot of the rest of the world is able to make movies and do things where they're filming and such in other places that aren't here.
That's fair.
Yeah, plus even, American movies, traditionally stuff that would be shot in LA or something, they're shooting in Canada or overseas somewhere just to get a set, a country that's
passable,
not having as big of an outbreak or under control. I mean, there's extensive testing and all this stuff that's on production sites now to keep people safe, but they are still able to work and still produce things. I mean, they wrapped part of the Disney release stuff that they were talking about. They just wrapped Shang-Chi. That's been shooting during the last couple months.
Uncharted,
so they finished wrapping that one. Right. Uncharted's done. They're in the process of shooting Spider-Man 3.
Batman's back in production or back in shooting and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like it's happening with all these movies, and they're still making movies and they're just not releasing them. It's kind of like what we're saying. And when do you get to a point where you've made so many that when do we release all of these? And then are we going to stop production for a while in Hollywood just because we have too many movies to release? We're not going to do that. So what's this? This is a solution. For the time being that we're dealing with this whole crisis, this is a solution.
Well, I think another point that I can't remember if it was Denny V or Nolan, but one of them kind of said or maybe it was one of the theater chains, that Warner Brothers announcement caught these people off guard, not because we're in the middle of a pandemic and this is what's going to be able to just get content out there for people. It's that now we're at a point where a vaccine is actually being talked about. And this might actually be people are starting to feel like we're coming out of the other end because now they're talking about a vaccine and getting it to the masses and trying to get to a point where we can be safe. Had they done this 6 months ago, I think people would have been fine, or this decision would have been easier to swallow for theater chains and stuff like that. But the fact that we're starting to get to a place where people are starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel, it's well, if we just suck it up, like Josh said, for another 3 to 4, 6 months, we might be able to come out of this on the other side and be okay. Why now?
We all know that's not going to happen. We all know where this is still going to end up. It's going to end up with I don't want to get too far into the whole vaccine and the virus and everything, but we're going to end up with unaffordable vaccines for people that can't go and get them, and we're not going to have enough of them, and it's going to be backed up for a long time.
Yeah.
One way or another. That's the reality of it. If they don't want to accept that, that's on them, but that's what's about to happen. Is you're about to
everybody's got their optimistic and pessimistic look about this. Theaters are trying to be optimistic and saying, 4 months we might be okay, and you could say Warner Brothers is taking the pessimistic approach and this is going to last another year, so we got to do something now to hedge our bets.
Well, I think what they're taking is, even if things start to go back to normal, when are people really going to feel safe enough to go back and sit in a crowded theater with no space between you and another person and no space between them and however many people fit in the theater, 150, 200, depending on the theater size, and pack that tightly in with a bunch of people in a small enclosed space? When are people going to feel safe doing that? Not just when are we actually going to have a cure or a vaccine or whatever. When are people actually going to go back to spending money at the theater?
I guess it's the general public, given the fact that we are where we are because of how the general public has behaved, they'll be back.
Parts of the general public.
Right, but I got to say, that's why it's the general public. They'd be back next week if you told them to go. Enough people. We are where we are because people didn't follow the basic simple rules that they didn't really need to be told to do. They definitely broke the rules that they were told to follow. So I don't have confidence in the general person whatsoever. If you told them theaters will open next week, not to the sizes, but I bet they would be at 60 to 75% typical capacities of where you traditionally believe they would be nearly immediately.
That is extremely optimistic. If you're saying next week you told people, go back, it's fine.
I mean, I wouldn't because I'm not an idiot.
I think that's very.
But if
very
you tell the
optimistic
general,
to say
no,
this.
that's what I'm saying. I'm not being optimistic. I'm being extraordinarily cynical about how the average typical person thinks and behaves.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I feel like I
Not
I
that
agree
not,
with
not
Josh
that you're
in
telling them it's safe
the-
to do, but it's okay to do. There's a
yeah,
difference.
I agree the cynical nature of with Josh that we're in this because people weren't adults about it. So the people that don't want to be adults about it are just going to be like, well, you're encroaching on my freedoms. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want to do, and they're going to go anyway. But more to the point, I have seen emails from Cinemark who still emails me every so often saying, "Look, we're safe. Come to the theater."
Mhm.
They've said like they are spacing out 3 or 4 seats between people. The way people pick seats, they're making sure there is space between them. So even if people go to the theaters, they're not going to be at the capacity that Mike's talking about. So it will be a while before we get to a packed theater. So
Right.
where's the line? Like, I guess I don't know what people are looking for. If they just want people to go to the theater, period, and sell out or have a decent number of people in the theater for what they can fit now based on regulations and spacing and what, or are we looking for people to go back to the theater like we were 2 years ago? Like, I don't know what
Well,
people
if
really
you're-
want out of this.
I mean, if you're Warner Brothers, you want to make your money off of these movies. You paid lots of money to make these movies,
Right.
and socially distanced theater going is not going to do that. It's just not. You know,
Right.
if you're going 3-4 seats between people, that's a quarter capacity.
Yeah.
Well, that's what shocks me more about this decision
So-
then, which is again, if the choice that they're making then doesn't guarantee, in my mind, that they can confidently track what they're making from the movies.
I think it's more of a punt situation. They're saying, look, we're not gonna like this. The way this has gone, we're stuck with this, and we can either pack things in and cost our other movies making their box office in the future by putting these ones so tightly packed with them, or we can put these out there. We can get as many people on HBO Max as persistent subscribers as we can, and we can plan for the future of the movies that we have planned to make an impact at the box office. And say, we're kind of fucked with these ones no matter what we do right now.
You're being,
So why not try to make, the best of it?
You're being much more generous to them than I would be. You're like
Why?
I agree with the first half of that, but I don't take the second half as altruistically that I think we're in this, Brian,
I
it
don't
sounds
think
like where
it's
your head is where
altruistic. I think they have no other option.
well and not in the way that this is setting up the power play to
I
go.
was trying to I was air quoting because everyone's looking at me funny, but like they have no other option type of thing. Like they're telling people we have no other option, but really they were going to do this anyway.
Well,
And-
and once 2021 is over, this is what they want to keep doing for
Right.
that. Like I don't see them as
If the
just,
business model works.
Yeah, this
Right.
is not. Oh, let's
If-
take this opportunity
it's a
to
big
deal with the
but,
dice
too.
that we've rolled and the cards that the world has been dealt, and then we want to leverage this for the future going forward into going back to the box office. I fully immediately took this as they are looking to change the entire industry, at least the corner of it that they control and own and interact with for the foreseeable future.
It's the quote from Emperor Palpatine in Episode 2 where he says, "I will lay this power down once this crisis has averted." No, they're not.
Ah,
We've just seen the Emperor.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like I think you guys are far too cynical on the Warner Brothers side of this.
Okay.
I don't think it's as cynical as you think. I just think they're backed into a corner. I honestly do. Like to me, I just don't see what the hell else they do. I mean, they had an option and they took it. If they just put them in theaters,
I think
where's it
Mike, to your
going?
point, I think to a point, yes, I think they had to do something with these movies specifically. What I think they did wrong was the execution of that plan. I think from a little bit that I've read, it seemed like the things that skipped theaters or for somewhere pulled from theaters and then put on a service, there was a lot of conversations behind the scenes between theaters, distributors, talent, everybody saying, we're going to do this. What do we need to work out to make this work? A plan was devised, everybody agreed
Yeah.
upon it, and then it happened.
This decision was
Warner
just
Brothers
like,
blindsiding everybody, saying we're just going to do it. We're going to figure out the rest later.
Like,
And
didn't even talk to
people off.
didn't even talk to anybody about it.
Ready,
Like, they didn't
fire,
talk to
aim.
Yeah,
if you
they were
make a
just
movie
like,
for 3 years, expecting it to be in theaters next month, and then today Warner Brothers is like, it's going to HBO Max. Fuck you. That's the problem.
yeah, there needed to be conversation before this happened with the creators of the movies that they're moving.
Yeah.
And the exhibitors.
Yes. And I think what's going to be funny is if they wait and see over the next year if this plan works.
Mm-hmm.
Keep an eye on the leadership for HBO and see who gets fired or promoted out of all the shit that just happened.
It'll be definitely interesting to track here together as things go on the next couple of months.
On a different note, though, I'd like to sort of bring up that I think this will hurt most like big blockbuster type movies, but for the like more obscure or like indie type films that I really know nothing about, it makes them so much more approachable for me. Like unless it's like big strong word of mouth that all my friends are like, oh my god, this movie that you've never heard of is really awesome, I'm not going to go see it in the theater. But now that it's just like it's on my screen, I can click on it right now and watch it. I've never heard of this movie. The synopsis looks cool. Like the little trailer that gave me looks cool. I think this is a really, I don't want to call it innovative, but it's a really neat way to get the obscure and indie movies more screen time, I guess.
I think that's what Mike said earlier, is like there's stuff that's going to hit the service now that he wouldn't normally go to the theater to see, but because it's there on HBO Max, he will watch it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if the artist wants more people to view their product, I think this is probably a good way to do that. Because again, we're all sort of saying the same thing. If it's there and I don't really know what it is, but it's something I wouldn't go out of my way to see in the theater, but because it's in my home right now for free, I watch it.
It kind of makes me wish that Warner Brothers was sort of like picky choosy with what movies they did this with, instead of just like grabbing them all and being like, fuck you, HBO. They were like, okay, like Dune, let's push it. What other were some other big ones?
Kong versus Godzilla.
Kong versus Godzilla, like push it.
The Conjuring,
like the Conjuring, push it. Big movies that really, it's just conjecture, but probably would do better in the theater.
Right.
I really wish that Warner Brothers cherry picked them a little bit.
You would think Warner Brothers as a studio, at least this is I don't know how the business works really behind the scenes, but this is what I'm assuming someone like Disney does, who makes a shit ton of money off of all their big blockbusters in the theaters. And I'm hoping that they sort of distribute that money amongst their studios or their film studios to make lower budget stuff. And it's sort of like it's one to feed the other, not just like they're all grouped together into one thing. So theoretically, if the stuff goes to theaters and still makes money, then it would feed the smaller indie movies to be able to, like, you'd make more smaller indie movies because you're making money on the blockbusters.
So almost like an internal profit sharing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. We've talked about this pretty long. Do we want to wrap up with anything else for this one?
I think I've gotten all my thoughts out.
Add to? No, okay. Yeah, I think each one of us had a little bit of a rant going on for that thing, because this is like some big shit going on. All right, so we're going to spin to Disney stuff, which, again, could be very time-consuming, so we're going to try to get through this as quickly as possible. As mentioned above, Disney had an investor call yesterday where they talked about upcoming projects from their different studios. So we got reveals from Lucasfilm, Marvel Studios, Pixar, Walt Disney Animation, Walt Disney Pictures, Nat Geo, as well as ESPN and Hulu. There's a ton of shit here. We could very easily get bogged down talking about each and every one of these. I'm going to do my best to run down the list of stuff that I tried to share on Twitter that had caught my attention. So this will not be everything. It's going to be a lot of stuff, but not everything. So I encourage you to check out our Facebook page or Twitter. I put up some articles that summarize what's coming from everybody, so you can see the full list. It's out there if you want to see what's coming. So I'm just going to hit some highlights, and then we're going to open it up with everybody. We had all of us pick 2 things we wanted to talk about out of this list of crap. And I'm going to maybe shorten it to like 7-8 minutes per topic to try to just keep moving us along here.
Can you do your list in like a rap or a song?
No.
Like
no.
the Animaniacs or something? Like...
I am definitely not that talented.
Where's Ian
that
when we need
would be badass.
That was a great poll.
All right, so again, bear with me as I rattle through all this stuff because I'm just going to read the bullet points that are on Twitter, so at least we give it a little bit of a summary of what these are and what's going on. First one up, and this is, I think, something they had a trailer for at one point, and now I don't remember when the trailer came out, but Raya and the Last Dragon, which is an animated movie, is going to be released in theaters and on Disney Plus, sort of with the Mulan model. It says Premiere Access on March 5th, 2021. There's no price point listed. So I don't know if this is going to be another $30 rental, if they've learned from Mulan and maybe do $20. I don't know.
So at any point, I wanted to ask this question quick when we got to the Premiere Access thing. I didn't know when you were going to get there, but
Yeah.
have they detailed what that is?
I think Premiere Access is, at least as far as I know, that's just associated with movies you will have to pay extra for.
I was thinking, are they perhaps considering something along the lines of what HBO Max is doing as an additional fee on top of their standard service?
That was rumored before the call that like maybe Premiere Access is a different tier of content. So you pay a little bit extra per month, but you have access to all this other stuff, which still could be fine. But I didn't actually look into it that detailed to see if that's what the plan was. But this was the bullet point that Disney put up. They didn't say anything in their tweets about different tiered subscription services for Disney Plus. So I didn't put anything up about that.
Who thinks they're going to call it Disney Plus Plus?
The Disney.
They'll just
the
rename the
Disney
standard
Plus
subscriber
Plus Rush.
Disney Minus. You'll just be Disney Minus on the standard sub. Disney Plus.
One thing that's been rumored or confirmed for FX, and I think it got delayed with some showrunner issues and stuff like that, but Why the Last Man is happening. It's coming to FX, drama series based on the acclaimed comic book series by the same name, written by Brian K. Vaughan and Pia Guerrera, starring Diane Lane, coming exclusively to FX on Hulu. Something else I think Josh got interested about, Alien is currently in development at FX Networks.
Yes.
First TV series based on the classic film series helmed by Fargo and Legion's Noah Hawley.
Didn't
So
they
that
say
could be
Ridley
huge.
Scott was involved in that too?
I don't know.
Like he's gonna have
If they
something
did,
to
I
do
missed
with
it. It wasn't in the bullet point thing on their tweet, which is where I'm basing all this stuff off of.
Okay.
Rangers of the New Republic, an original series set within the timeline of The Mandalorian, coming to Disney Plus. So this is a Star Wars series. So there's no cast listed for this. I don't know who the Rangers are. I feel like we could figure out some spin-off stuff probably after this season, I'm thinking. But
I had heard rumblings of Cara Dune getting her own series, which could be that, but that's
could
just
fit.
rumblings, you know?
Yeah. At no surprise, Ahsoka, a new original series starring Rosario Dawson, set within the timeline of The Mandalorian, coming to Disney Plus. So we all kind of figured that the Ahsoka episode, I think it's safe to assume, was a backdoor pilot for a series. Well, that is true. That's coming. We got a sizzle reel for the Cassian Andor show, which is basically just some behind-the-scenes footage. Sizzle reel confirms 12 episodes for Andor. It says Disney Plus series with Diego Luna coming back as Cassian Andor, set before the events of Rogue One. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series, they've confirmed Hayden Christensen is returning as Darth Vader. The original series begins 10 years after the dramatic events of Revenge of the Sith, coming to Disney Plus.
On that, real quick, I just want to ask: is there
yeah.
any point in? I guess it would only be A New Hope. Do they ever allude to? Well, I guess they wouldn't have because they didn't know what the previous story was at that point yet. There's never been a previously mentioned time that after, like in between episodes 3 and 4, that they ever meet again.
No.
Okay.
It's honestly that's a bit of Star Wars lore that I want to see explained, because I think I don't know when Obi-Wan discovers Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker. I think as far as Obi-Wan knows, Anakin died on Mustafar. And then Darth Vader shows up. So did he put 2 and 2 together? Does he figure that out? I am under the assumption he doesn't know Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker.
Gotcha.
That's true. Yeah, the way that's said. You even think about like the way it's worded. Yeah, I mean, I always assumed he was trying to like fool Luke. Or not fool Luke, but maybe just not tell him like Darth Vader's your father.
I think by the time we get to episode 4, he knows who he is.
But see, even the wording in that, like...
Yeah, it sounds like he's trying to just be
Luke.
elusive, but like by not referring to him properly and revealing that. But that's why I asked. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's... I can't imagine we're going to see Hayden's face. Like, if he is Darth Vader's in the armor. So, I don't know, we're just going to have Hayden in the armor, which is still kind of cool to know he's in there, but, like, why do you need Hayden for that? So, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I'm excited, but we'll see.
Having some
I suggested
mask offs.
flashbacks.
What's that, Mike?
I had just suggested flashbacks to the Clone Wars era.
Which, that'd be cool, too.
That'd be really cool.
Speaking of Clone Wars, we got a sizzle reel for the Bad Batch, which is the animated spin-off series from the Clone Wars from Lucasfilm Animation coming to Disney+. No release date, just says coming soon. Disney announced Galaxy's favorite scoundrel, Lando Calrissian, will return in Lando, a brand new event series for Disney+. Justin Simeon is in early stages of developing the project, so there's no cast listed for this. I am assuming it is not Billy D. Williams, but I don't know.
I also read that this is animated.
Oh, okay. That press release does not say that.
That was my other question: is it going to be live action or animated? Some of these,
if it's animated,
question.
Yeah, if it's animated, I could definitely see Billy D. coming back to voice the character.
I am not 100% on that, but I did see a couple places that listed it as animated.
Okay. Yeah, if it's animated, give me Billy D. If it's live action, I want to see Donald Glover's Lando show back up.
Agreed.
I think that'd be fun. Leslie Headland brings a new Star Wars series to Disney Plus with The Acolyte. This is a mystery thriller that will take viewers into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. And
this sounds really cool.
Yeah, Andy, you were the one that kept telling me about Russian Doll on Netflix, which I have not watched.
Russian Doll is a very cool series on Netflix, and this is the showrunner from Russian Doll, I believe.
Yes.
I know, what's her name? Natasha and Leone, is that her name? Also had a lot to do with Russian Doll as well, but this was, I don't know, the rudder, I guess, to Russian Doll. And it just, from the description, it sounds cool. A mystery thriller in the Star Wars universe having to do with the High Republic and dark forces. Like, I'm in.
Yeah. And the High Republic era, I think we might have talked about it. I might have posted about it a couple months ago. It actually kicks off in January. It's the whole set of novels and extended literature that Star Wars. It's a new era for Star Wars that they are starting to promote, and there will be information and lore there. So I don't know when there's no release date for this series, but if you start reading the books, which take place in the High Republic era, you're going to fit right at home with this series that apparently takes place at the tail end of all that stuff. So I think that's going to be really cool just to see all that connectivity there.
And for the listeners, the High Republic era is what? It's like 100 to 200 years before the events of Phantom Menace?
Yeah,
it's a couple hundred. It's not thousands of years in the beforehand. It's just a couple hundred, I believe.
Yeah, it's not like Old Republic era. It's technically, I guess, after Old Republic stuff. So we're still not getting Knights of the Old Republic, but it's an era in Star Wars where there are still a lot of Jedi Knights at the height of their power type of stuff. So I'm very interested to see where they go.
Era. 100% new content here.
New characters, everything. Lucasfilm Animation is teaming with Lucasfilm's visual effects team, ILM, to develop a special Star Wars adventure for Disney Plus, A Droid Story. Epic Story will introduce us to a new hero guided by R2-D2 and C-3PO. An original series from Lucasfilm starring Warwick Davis, Willow, is coming to Disney Plus in 2022. Pilot will be directed by John M. Chu, who I feel like I should know what he does, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Neither do I.
I recognize the name, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I think Josh is looking it up, so get back to me. Lucasfilm is in pre-production on the next installment of Indiana Jones. Directing this one, James Mangold, which I think is the first official announcement we have for James Mangold directing Indiana Jones 5. Harrison Ford is set to return. Arrives July 2022.
If it was not for James Mangold, I'm sorry, I laughed out loud about this.
I think
Didn't James Mangold do The Wolverine?
And
Yes.
Logan.
Okay.
And most recently, Ford versus Ferrari.
Like he has a good resume, but when they still said, because this has been on and off again ever since Crystal Skull, and that was 12 years ago at this point. And Harrison Ford's like 94 now.
I mean, it's not Spielberg and Lucas
I know.
digging their claws into him again, which might be actually good this time.
I'm gonna miss Spielberg. Lucas not writing a script for it, I'm okay with right now.
Fair enough. After the last one, I think it's good to just have a complete reset, though.
Yes, let's see what someone that's a fan of the franchise can do with the franchise. Nothing more than like, hey, this is still happening, but a brand new Star Wars feature with acclaimed filmmaker Taika Waititi is in development, which we knew. That was something we talked about a while ago. So just the fact that they're just saying it's still coming, we're working on it. But I think when I posted this tweet, it reminded me Rian Johnson had still signed on for a Star Wars trilogy back when he was doing Last Jedi, which we've heard nothing about. So I don't know if this thing has been quietly canceled or if they're still working on it, but that was nowhere to be talked about in this call. One of the things we're definitely going to dive in later, because this fucking gave me goosebumps when I watched this trailer. Patty Jenkins put up a tweet that's a 1.5-minute video, and it was shared by Disney, and I was like, what the fuck? Why is Disney sharing this? And then it was Patty Jenkins talking about how growing up with her father, who was an Air Force pilot and addicted to, like, she's really into speed and fighter jets and all this stuff, and she's been wanting to do a fighter jet movie for years and could never find the right property. And then it ends with, like, okay, I finally found the movie to make that satisfies two things that I love. And you're like, well, what's the second? And then she puts on an X-Wing pilot's helmet and walks to an X-Wing. And I was like, fucking let's go. The Rogue Squadron title comes up, and I lost it. This was fucking amazing.
Even when she just puts on the helmet, it's like, okay, that's cool. But then, I know we're going to get into it later, but it being Rogue Squadron that she's going to do, it's... Yeah.
That was big for me. Other stuff that Disney's doing. We are getting a Mighty Ducks series. Mighty Ducks, Game Changers, continues the legacy of hockey's finest fouls. The series picks up where the films left off. Emilio Estevez returns as Gordon Bombay. And Lauren Graham. Those are the only two people they listed. Gordon Bombay and Lauren Graham is joining the cast. Coming to Disney+. Another one that caught my attention that I got kind of excited for, Chip and Dale are coming back in a hybrid live-action animated series. Animated feature. Sorry, so this must be a film. Directed by Akiva Schaffer, starring John Mulaney as Chip and Andy Samberg as Dale.
That is going to be genius.
Directed by Akiva Schaffer is interesting.
What has he done? Because I don't know.
He's The Lonely Island. Like, him and Andy Samberg.
Okay.
I can't remember the third guy's name, but, like, that's what they do. So all those videos they directed for SNL.
Yeah.
That's
all right, so I'm even more excited about this now. This sounds cool. One of Walt Disney's all-time classics coming to Disney Plus with a new live-action retelling of Pinocchio, starring Tom Hanks and directed by Robert Zemeckis.
You know, I was completely uninterested in that until the Tom Hanks and Robert Zemeckis
part. Yeah,
like,
right.
I could give a shit about a live-action Pinocchio, but the Forrest Gump crew coming back together, that's...
They've worked on quite a few movies together, have they not?
I mean, I'm off the top of my head only thinking of Forrest Gump, but I'm sure there's got to be others, right?
Didn't Zemeckis do Polar Express?
Oh, I think so.
Yes. Yeah. Good call.
And who directed The Terminal?
I think that was Spielberg,
I think, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, I know it was a big name that did The Terminal. I couldn't...
Who did Castaway?
Good call. I don't know. I feel like that could be Zemeckis. Is it?
It might have been Zemeckis.
It was.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
they have a history.
They have quite a big history. Yeah.
So this one, I think the next one too, I think we're probably meant to be to theaters, but they are coming to Disney Plus. They don't say Premier Access, they just say Disney Plus. So these must be part for subscribers. So there's that one, and there's Peter Pan and Wendy coming to Disney Plus. David Lowery directs. With it just says amazing cast, including Yara Shahidi in the role of Tinkerbell and Jude Law as Captain Hook.
I have no interest in this. I'm so
Jude Law as Captain Hook is somewhat exciting. I don't know that anyone can beat Dustin Hoffman from Hook.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I have a thing about Peter Pan and Robin Hood and Tarzan movies. Like, I don't need any of those stories anymore. Like you can't do anything differently that and if you do, you're bastardizing it to the point where you're just trying to be different, and I don't care anymore.
Disney Animation's first ever original animated series are coming to Disney Plus. So they are doing a Baymax series, Zootopia series, Tiana series, which I don't know what that is.
For Princess and the
They're
Frog.
coming 2022.
Yeah.
What's that?
Princess and the Frog.
Okay, gotcha. And they're doing a Moana series coming in 2023.
I have some coworkers who about lost their shit today on our work chat when I told them about those.
I mean, Zootopia series sounds amazing. The rest,
Yeah.
whatever, I'm not that thrilled about, but Zootopia, I will be there for.
I kind of
Big
I'm curious
Hero
what
6
Baymax
was-
is like.
Yeah, Big Hero 6 was a good movie as well. So yeah, I'd be more excited for Baymax and Zootopia because I don't know, Princesses doesn't do much. For me.
Really?
I loved Moana. I'm unabashedly a Moana fan.
I mean,
I
that's
like
a good
Moana.
movie, but I don't know that I'd watch that series.
Fair.
Same.
You just have to wonder, like, some of these movies I feel like would have got a sequel. So are they shelving the sequel to make series now for Disney Plus for these movies? Like, I feel like Zootopia, Moana,
Maybe
Big
they're
Hero 6.
seeing some,
Oh.
some drop off on sequels, and they figure they can turn it into subscriptions instead.
Back
yeah, I
in the
mean, I'm definitely...
VHS
Go ahead, Mike.
days, like Aladdin and Lion King all got sequels, but they were straight to VHS.
True.
So,
Yeah.
what are you really losing here?
I guess I'm curious to see what they do with an original animated series. Like, how are we looking? Like 8-12 episodes for
Mhm.
these? Yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely curious what they do. Pixar speeding ahead with a new series following Lightning McQueen and Mater on a road trip across the country, featuring new characters, old friends, and imaginative destinations. Coming to Disney Plus fall 2022. This is one of the few I feel like that specifically says coming to theaters. June 17th, 2022. Lightyear is the definitive story of the original Buzz Lightyear, voiced by Chris Evans.
I missed the fact that this was supposed to be theatrical. I thought this was a series, a Disney Plus series.
No, this is I had heard about this. I think we briefly mentioned it when it first got announced as to what the hell are they gonna do here.
Oh,
they just announced
I've
the Buzz
never heard of this
Lightyear
before.
movie.
This.
And I want to say, Brian, you were like, how do they do this without Woody?
Okay, you'd see. I don't even remember that, to be honest, either.
No, I don't remember that either.
I don't know. I remember having the conversation, and Brian's the only person I know that cares enough about Toy Story that I would have had that conversation with.
I mean, I do love me some Toy Story.
This obviously could be complete bullshit. I know, but on IMDb trivia, somebody submitted this could be, or this is rumored to be a story not about the action figure or the thing that Buzz Lightyear is, but in that world of Toy Story, the origin of the astronaut who inspired someone to create the character. So within
What's that definitive story of the original Buzz
right,
Lightyear?
so within the world of Toy Story in that universe, there exists an astronaut who then somebody takes inspiration from to create the character of Buzz Lightyear.
Which would make sense why it's Chris Evans voicing and not Tim Allen.
Yeah.
Right.
And if that's the
It's a
way it
neat
goes, that
concept.
sounds interesting to me.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so we're gonna get into all the Marvel shit that we got to talk about now.
Oh, they did that too?
This is all the meaty stuff. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness debuts March 25th, 2022, starring Benedict Cumberbatch, Elizabeth Olsen, Benedict Wong, Rachel McAdams, Chiwetel Ejiofor.
You got it.
And I'm going to butcher this one, Xochitl Gomez. Xochitl Gomez as American Chavez. And I believe this is the first official confirmation. This has basically been confirmed by multiple other news outlets, but directed by Sam Raimi. And this tweet also confirms the film will tie into WandaVision and the next Spider-Man film. So there's a chance that all the rumors we keep hearing about Spider-Man could be true. But I'm still kind of holding my breath on some of those.
It's a confirmation stickler, folks.
Yes, I am very much. But this is me going off on a tangent. But for anyone that read the rant that I put out on Facebook, part of it is not just like looking for confirmation for this stuff. Part of it is like, why the fuck do you want to know this stuff before you see the movie?
You know what? I want to start the next rumor right now. Neil Patrick Harris is going to be there for this.
He's going to be
to
MODOK.
voice an animated Spider-Man.
I'm here for it. I love that animated Spider-Man that he did. That was for the MTV series. I remember that.
Yeah.
All right, and then we got a couple first look trailer type of things. So we got a second trailer for WandaVision. That's all that they popped. We're not going to dive into the trailer stuff. We got a first look for Falcon and Winter Soldier. We got a release date. Start streaming March 19th on Disney Plus for
That's awesome.
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
So that should be like
and
right by the end of WandaVision then. Like right as that's wrapping up its weekly stuff.
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
should be
I think
kinda
that's how they positioned
kicking
these
off.
first three, because we still don't know what they're going to do with Black Widow. They haven't,
right.
or you know,
Yeah, there was no word on Black
they
Widow
don't-
at all.
They don't know what they're going to do with it yet.
Unless they're holding their breath, because it's due to come out, this coming May 2021. So unless they're holding their breath to see what theaters are like then and see what happens, but
Yeah.
there was no update for Black Widow.
I have a small speculation, but I will get there in a moment after you get through another couple.
Okay. Going back to WandaVision, start streaming Disney Plus January 15th. So that's right around the corner.
Yep.
We got a first clip trailer type of thing for Loki. Original series from Marvel Studios coming May 2021 to Disney Plus.
So this is where I'll interject. So given exactly what you guys just said, I wouldn't be surprised if their hopeful plan is feed us those three series one after the other for several months. 8 to 10 weeks, WandaVision, maybe have a little, like a week or two off, maybe for in between, 8 to 10 weeks for Falcon Winter Soldier, week or two off, 8 to 10 weeks for Loki. And at that point, they're maybe hoping to get Black Widow out in July.
Yeah,
Could be.
I could see that. We did get a couple other videos after this. So we got another first look trailer for Marvel Studios' What If, which is the original animated series from Marvel Studios. Just says coming summer 2021. So we don't know what month or when, but at least we have a season for that one. So this is the series that's like hosted by more or less the Beyonder or the Watcher.
Yes.
Voiced by Jeffrey Wright. That talks about what if scenarios for the MCU, and then we see them in animated form. So that looks cool. We got confirmation that Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings wrapped production. So they are coming to theaters July 9th, 2021. We got a scissor reel for the announcement of a new character, Miss Marvel. Kamala Khan is coming to Disney Plus as an original series late 2021. So we saw the actress, Iman Vellani as Kamala Khan. She's in the trailer. And then the next tweet after that lists her as being part of the cast for Captain Marvel 2, which has Brie Larson returning, directed by Nia DaCosta, joining the cast. Again, Miss Marvel's in there, and Monica Rambeau, played by WandaVision's Teyana Paris. So I think if you've watched the trailer for the second trailer for WandaVision, there's a quick cameo by this character in that series, or in that trailer.
Who, remember, was the younger girl, the daughter,
90s.
in
Yes.
the first Captain Marvel. So I guess we're keeping up with the time jump where we meet Carol Danvers with Endgame
Right.
and going from there.
Yes.
25.
Yeah,
Well,
about
no, they'd be 30 years later now in the Marvel universe. Cause
that's 5 years. Yeah. And by the time it gets out, we could almost just about catch up with that.
Yeah.
Real quick, I would say about Miss Marvel, there's a really cool docu-series on Disney Plus called Marvel 616. And I think the second episode is centered on women's history in Marvel. Characters, writers, artists, and they do a nice chunk in there about Ms. Marvel and the revitalization of Captain Marvel like 10, 15 years ago and whatnot. So if you happen to have Disney Plus, that series is really cool.
Nice. That's one I haven't watched yet, so I gotta get on that too. The pictures got leaked on the internet probably a week or two before this was officially announced. Hawkeye, obviously, that series is happening. We knew that. Jeremy Renner returns as Hawkeye, teaming up with Kate Bishop, played by Haley Steinfeld. So there's been pictures of her running around on set with Jeremy Renner that hit the internet not too long ago. I'm pretty sure we talked about the casting for She-Hulk before. Tatiana Maslany will portray Jennifer Walters / She-Hulk. The surprising thing in this tweet is that Tim Roth returns as Abomination, and Hulk himself, Mark Ruffalo, will appear in the series. Directed by Kat Curio and Anu. Why do they give me all these names? Anu.
Why do
Velia?
people have names?
We got to get better. We gotta find some kind of Duolingo program that helps Americans with ethnic names more.
Yes, I am ignorant in that.
I will sign up day one. I need it to.
One thing that was actually going to be on our list of topics to talk about today was the Moon Knight show, which apparently 2 months ago cast Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight, but I missed that somewhere buried among all the other crap that's been going on. Marvel Studios talks about Moon Knight, a complex vigilante, is coming to Disney Plus, does not list a date, and now obviously, surprisingly, it does not list Oscar Isaac as being part of the series in the tweet about said series, which at this point I thought it was not, not... It wasn't supposed to be hidden. Yeah. Like this is out there that he is in the role. So I don't know why they didn't put his name attached to this thing. Another one that surprised me: Samuel L. Jackson back as Nick Fury, and Ben Mendelsohn returns as Skrull Talos in Marvel Studios' original series Secret Wars, which I would have been a big storyline for the movies, and they are turning it into a series.
I thought I saw that as a different name.
Oh, sorry, Secret Invasion. Did I say Secret Wars? Yes, sorry. That's my fault.
Okay.
I really want Secret Wars. I'm just really trying to plug that.
Oh, no, yeah, but I was just really worried they were doing that as a television show, and I was like, wait, no, that needs to be a movie.
No, yeah, you're right. My bad. Yeah, Secret Invasion. Secret Invasion is coming as a series for Disney Plus. Coming soon to Disney Plus, Dominique Thorne is genius inventor Riri Williams in Ironheart, an original series about the creator of the most advanced suit of armor since Iron Man. So this was, if you've listened to the show before, we've talked about Black Panther and Endgame and Avengers and stuff like that. I always had this really crazy theory that I thought Shuri would take up the mantle as Riri if they were trying to consolidate characters and have this thing not blow the MCU wide open, but try to consolidate, especially with Iron Man gone. Use an established character that we know to take up the mantle of Iron Man, and I thought Shuri would be that person. So we are not getting that. We are getting actual Riri Williams in the MCU in this series. So that is happening. Don Cheadle returns as James Rhodes, aka War Machine, in Armor Wars, an original series coming to Disney Plus about Tony Stark's worst fear coming true. What happens when his tech falls into the wrong hands? At this point, you start reading through all these tweets, and it's like, which character in the MCU is not getting their own series? It seems like everybody had a deal worked out that it's like, after Endgame, we're going to get our shit together.
All the new ones are getting the new movies, and all the older characters are just kind of, they're getting their ride into the sunset.
That's a good point, yeah. This one made me smile because I feel like I know exactly what they're going for with this. Guardians of the Galaxy is getting a holiday special written and directed by James Gunn, coming to Disney Plus 2022. If I feel like just the title, Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, this is basically the Star Wars Holiday Special. That's what I'm picturing in my head with Guardians of the Galaxy.
But they can do it non-ironically. They can do it in the exact same, the reputation that the Star Wars Holiday Special has. They can basically do that, but it'll actually be enjoyable.
I'm thinking you're getting Star-Lord fanboying for the Star Wars Holiday Special he saw at home as a kid.
Ooh.
And he's trying to recreate it in some way for the rest of the Guardians. Like, there was this awesome thing when I was a kid.
Shut up. Don't give that. That's a good idea.
Someone in the galaxy also has Life Day that they are trying to get to.
Send James Gunn a DM, man. Tell him, dude, I got an idea. Did you start writing the script? Here's an outline.
So I think in my tweet to retweet this, I was basically like, well, what does this mean for Guardians 3? Because I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be coming out too. I looked on, I think, Instagram or something. James Gunn had answered a comment that someone made, and basically he said, we are shooting this and Guardians 3 at the same time. So Guardians 3 is still happening. I'm guessing while the cast is together for
Yeah.
that, they're just working this into the production schedule.
And I
That
forget.
makes sense given
did they?
the heavy makeup.
I'm sorry. Did they say that that this is Christmas of 21 or 22?
Disney Plus 2022.
2. Okay, so we're not getting Guardians 3 until 2023.
At least, probably, yeah.
Yeah, that makes me sad, but I get
it. Holiday 2022 could be New Year's Day though. Just
if it's a holiday special,
know,
I doubt it's
hedge
gonna
it.
be. It's gonna be
It's gonna be
Thanksgiving, December
November.
2022.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying though.
Yeah, I'm just hopefully bullshitting my way into it's not that far away. But
Next, we got everyone's favorite little tree, Baby Groot, will star in a series of shorts on Disney Plus featuring several new and unusual characters called I Am Groot.
So
I guess the Forky
what
shorts.
else would it be called?
Yeah, the Forky shorts must have worked for Disney Plus. They're like, you know what? Let's do it with Baby Groot now. Let's go.
So you think they're just gonna turn back the clock a little bit and say, look, he's already been a teenager for quite some time. We've portrayed that, but guess what? All right, Baby Groot. Everyone loves Baby Groot.
I really hope anytime they have to do mocap for Baby Groot, they put James Gunn in there to dance around as Baby Groot again.
I mean, for me, it's the Wreck-It Ralph short that you get that kills it as Baby Groot. I mean, when they're wandering around in Wreck-It Ralph and he's just like answering questions from the audience.
Oh yeah,
he's just like, I am Groot.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh, cool. And they move on. It's just
a big name that I wouldn't expect to be cast in this movie. Academy Award-winning actor Christian Bale joins the cast of Thor: Love and Thunder as the villain Gore, the God Butcher, in theaters May 6, 2022.
I was shocked by that.
Yeah, I want to see Christian Bale get in here and have fun.
Yeah,
like not take a serious role, just joke around and have a good time.
I think
and not flip out on somebody getting him coffee.
Yeah,
I think being in a Thor movie after Ragnarok that Taika is in charge of, that is the only way that Christian Bale works in a comic book movie again.
Yeah.
And he has to be the villain. He has to be the Jeff Goldblum or actually worse, like something he has to fight. He has to do a thing. I can't wait for that.
As soon as I saw Christian Bale, I couldn't even make it to the end of the sentence. I was like, they're gonna make him balder. That's gonna be amazing. And then you get to the end of it, and you're like, I've never heard of this character he's playing. So,
next one, I'm pretty sure Mike has brought up this character for a while, and I'm surprised he's going to make an appearance here. Peyton Reed is back to direct the third Ant-Man film, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumanium. Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, Michael Douglas, and Michelle Pfeiffer return. Catherine Newton joins the cast as Cassie Lang, and Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror.
Yep.
That's a big deal.
That surprises me in an Ant-Man movie to be...
Yeah.
I mean, Kang is really kind of an Avengers-level threat.
I was going to say, you had him pegged as an Avengers villain at some point.
Yeah, he's an Avengers-level threat. I don't know how they're going to have Ant-Man deal with him on his own, but...
They got 2 Ant-Man and 2 Wasps in this movie now, so, you know.
Was anyone else bummed that they recast Cassie?
Yeah, a little bit. But I guess, I don't know, maybe they just they're going older, somewhere, 5-year time jump or something. And
they did. She was in Endgame.
Oh, they're not using that Endgame actress. Nope. They're in. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't put 2 and 2 together for that.
And I would say
she was only there for like
she had
2 seconds, but still. I mean, for all we know, no offense to this person if it's not true, she could be a horrible actress. But she just worked for that one scene that they needed her for 5 seconds of screen time. So I don't think they put as much thought into it, but maybe they should have, since they knew they were gonna cast Thatcher at some point. So.
Also, the Jonathan Majors, who is cast as Kang, Sarah and I just watched him in HBO's Lovecraft Country, which was really interesting and really effed up. But he was really good in it. So putting him into this kind of world, I'm definitely curious to see what he does.
Oh, that guy.
Nice. I don't know. Only just a few left. One of them is just like, hey, we're still making this thing. Marvel Studios' Blade, new feature film starring Mahershala Ali in the title role. So that's coming. No release date, no anything. We're working on it. Little update on Black Panther 2. Opening July 8th, 2022. Being written and directed by Ryan Coogler. Honoring Chadwick Boseman's legacy and portrayal of T'Challa, Marvel Studios will not recast the character, but will explore the world of Wakanda and the rich characters introduced in the first film. So we have official confirmation that no one is going to play T'Challa.
I think that's a good call.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be sad either way.
Right.
I feel like that movie's going to wreck me when I see it. So,
in the best of
but
ways.
I'm looking forward to it either way. Yeah. And finally, this is another one that kind of lost my shit a little bit. John Watts will direct the new Fantastic Four movie for Marvel Studios. John Watts is the director of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. So I feel like it was probably a tug of war when Spider-Man's over. Is Sony going to get him to do something, or is Marvel going to get him to do something? And it seems like Marvel won that tug of war, and we're like, you've done good. We're going to keep you for this. So
if he had to choose where to go.
Right.
Like, if he had a choice in it, he was going to go with Marvel if they both offered.
I was actually curious because I know Peyton Reed, and we talked about it in the superhero movies that could have been. Peyton Reed was petitioning, trying to get a Fantastic Four movie made at one point. And since he was in the Marvel Studios bubble, I wasn't sure if they'd put him on Fantastic Four even after Ant-Man 3, but I guess maybe they want to put it out first or, a little bit sooner. But I was kind of crossing my fingers he'd actually finally get to direct a Fantastic Four movie. So we'll see. Maybe he'll do the sequel after Ant-Man wraps up.
We'll get an Anna Boden, Ryan Fleck kind of thing, and they'll do it together.
Possibly. All right, so that's it for the announcements that I shared. I think, like I said, there was more in their press releases. If you go back and check those, there's definitely some stuff I missed, so there's plenty of crap to get excited about. So we're going to try to go quickly through what excites us. So we picked 2 topics out of what I just ran through each, just to try to dive in a little bit more, give it a little bit more airtime. We're going to randomize it. Josh has us a nice little randomizer here, a bingo ball type of thing that we're going to start picking numbers out of the hat and see who goes when. So Josh, hit us with our first number.
Let's go. Let's see where we start.
5.
5.
All right, who's number 5?
Mike and the Ahsoka series.
Okay. I mean, for me, this was obviously a big announcement. I know Brian knows, and Andy and Josh probably have heard me talk about Ahsoka enough. Ahsoka's my favorite Star Wars character, period. And I was very, very, very much originally against the idea of a live-action appearance for Ahsoka. I did not think that her alien species would be able to be translated well into live action. Not even just the character itself, just the way she looks with the Leiku and whatever you want to call them on her head, that I don't think they would translate well. For a long time I felt that way. And I felt like the character meant so much as an animated character that bringing it to live action would be scary. However, 2 weeks ago we got to, spoilers, see Ahsoka live action for the first time, and it did not disappoint, and it was pretty damn awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, she drops the name at the end of it. Again, spoilers.
That's good. Good call.
Should I say the name? Or am I...
Try to avoid it. We'll
okay, well, with a character that I'm also very nervous for the casting of, that we will certainly see in her series, that is also very important to me in the Star Wars mythos. So getting to see that character live action that we're not going to name, and Ahsoka, it's exciting to know they're going there. And there's other characters associated that may also get cast and turn up because we're getting an Ahsoka series. Like Ezra could possibly pop up there from Rebels. We don't know. Hera could pop up. There's
I feel like anybody that's watched Rebels knows there's some characters that are sort of in the wind that we want to know what happened after Rebels. And
yes,
this takes place after Rebels, so we could finally get some questions to those, or some answers to those questions. I think we always kind of assumed they would just do another animated series, but the fact that these characters are starting to pop up in live action is exciting.
Yeah, and we don't actually know, like that very end scene of Rebels that like jumps forward into the future a little bit.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I'm not getting to what happens.
Good.
I'm saying there's just a scene at the very last thing you see in Rebels. You get a little bit of a future look. Do we know when that is?
Yeah, they talk about the Empire winning or the Rebellion winning. So I think that's right at the end of Return of the Jedi.
Okay, so that is then.
So this would
so we're still after that.
Right. So
Okay.
I mean, all this says is it takes place during the Mandalorian. So the Mandalorian is 5-ish years after Return of the Jedi. So
Which means we could be getting answers of
Yes.
some kind
yes,
to what happens after Rebels to those characters. And that would be amazing. Even if we don't, just a little, side shot of it would be awesome. But yeah, in general, I'm glad that they're going this route and not trying to tack on Ahsoka as a story that follows The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian needs to be its own thing. Focus on him. Let her
Right.
have her own series. That's great.
it seems like season 2 is a lot of like, hey, we're gonna pop in some characters now, which are cool to see cameos, but there's like backdoor pilots for everybody. Like there's so many
I don't
shows
feel
that
like
seem
it's
like
a
they're getting.
backdoor pilot for Boba.
See, I feel like he's gonna get something out of this. I don't either that or he doesn't make it out of the series. One of the two.
Oh, well, maybe.
Because I feel like everybody they're introducing that they're everyone's like, oh, that's cool. I want to see more of that character. They're getting their own series. So this is Disney, I think, not knowing what to do with Star Wars right now. They don't know what to do with the movies. So The Mandalorian's a hit. Just milk the crap out of The Mandalorian for anything that it's worth. And so we'll see if this works. I mean, I'm excited for this stuff either way. But Andy, how much through Rebels did you get?
I got to Ahsoka versus Vader.
Season 2. Okay. So you still got 2 other seasons to watch. Let's
Yeah.
go, buddy. You're on the top.
I know.
Catch up.
Well,
Catch
I
up.
was
Gotta get that
I was
before
gonna
the
try
Ahsoka
and
series.
get Jess through the Clone Wars and then Rebels, but we keep finding other stuff to watch in the meantime. So
That's a big
There's
task to get
just-
through both.
it is, and you know what? There's so much content available everywhere for anything, and it's just our mountain of things to watch is just it seems insurmountable.
Josh,
Yeah.
you biting the bullet on any of these animated series yet? Still holding off?
Well, I mean, we only talked like 2 weeks ago about this, but no, I haven't
Just making
haven't
sure.
made any progress. But honestly, especially if specifically that Bad Batch show is basically a continuation of those series, depending on how long that takes, like I don't know, maybe if I don't do it in the next couple of months, I probably will never because it'll be getting even worse.
I don't know
I'll
if
try
like
to-
Bad Batch is essential to like it's gonna if you like Clone Wars, if you want to keep going, sure.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
to go from Clone Wars to Rebels, you don't need Bad Batch.
Oh no, I see. Yeah, but if one's like a jumping off point from one of those series, and that just like expands the amount of content to get through, I feel like if I ever would consider diving into Bad Batch, then like I'd have to do those other things. So it's like pull the trigger in the next couple of months, or it's never gonna happen.
Right.
So 2 things. One, I would still say the Clone Wars and Rebels are the best Star Wars content that is available. So if you like any of it, you'll like that. 2, for the Clone Wars, yeah, there's a lot of them, but you can look up lists and there's essential episodes to watch where you don't have to watch all 7 seasons and 20 episodes a season and all that. You can go forth with the essential 30 or 40 total episodes, and you've pretty much got the idea. There's a lot of useless episodes of the Clone Wars. The Rebels, not so much. But the Clone Wars you can get through by doing that and move through it. So if that swayed you in any way, maybe.
No, think about
Maybe
it.
you'll do it.
Either way, let us know when you finally pull the trigger. We'll be waiting.
I will. There's still a long winter ahead, so maybe.
All right, we hit the timer
Horned.
for the Ahsoka series. So all right, last call. Anything for Ahsoka?
Super pumped
Nope.
for Rosaria did a great job.
Yeah.
Same.
They made the right choice.
All right, Josh, hit us with the next one.
7,
Andy, tell us about Willow.
Willow was a movie starring Warwick Davis, Val Kilmer, and Billy Barty, maybe was his name. I can't remember. But it was in 1988, and it's a dark fantasy from George Lucas and Lucasfilm, and it's iconic. It's always been one of my favorite movies. In fact, Chris Claremont and George Lucas worked on a 3-book series that I'm on the 3rd book of for quite some time. I haven't been reading it all lately, but I'm curious to see this new Willow series on Disney Plus. I think they said 2022 sometime. Warwick Davis is reprising his role as Willow. He's sort of a wizard in this world of dragons and monsters and sword play and whatnot. I'm curious to see if the Chris Claremont story will take, and they'll use that as sort of a jumping off point for the Willow series. Warwick Davis was the only actor confirmed, I believe, for the series, so that leads me to believe that maybe like Mad Mardigan, who Val Kilmer plays very well, very, very well in the movie in 1988, lends me to believe that the things that happen in the Chris Claremont 3-book series after the movie does take place. That's all I'm going to say about that. But I'm very excited. Willow's been a childhood favorite for, I was 8 when it happened, so that long.
Do your own math.
And let's face it, Warwick Davis is an excellent actor. Give him more things.
Yes.
Agreed. I think Leslie, a listener and sometimes guest host on the show, probably lost her shit at this too. I know she's a big fan.
I mean, personally, I did. I mean, I love Warwick Davis. I love it. He is one of the most charismatic people that you'll ever see anywhere. The man can play an audience. He can play a role. He can do whatever he wants.
I know he had a show, like something about little...
Life's Too Short.
Yeah. And I've been meaning to watch it. It's just the insurmountable watch list.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I watched like the first couple episodes of that on HBO when it started, and like there's a Liam Neeson part in that first episode or two that is fucking hysterical. There's a Johnny Depp cameo in one of those first episodes that is hysterical. Like it's worth watching.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's what, HBO?
I think it was HBO.
Okay. And probably only a couple seasons, I would guess. I
don't know how long it lasted, but I only caught the first couple because I think they were either free somewhere or at the time I was subscribed to HBO. I just never stuck with it, but it's the Office type of Curb Your Enthusiasm-ish humor that's in there.
Okay. I'm definitely in. I love those shows. Warwick Davis, for anybody who doesn't know, also has quite a few roles in a lot of the Star Wars movies. Mm-hmm. And also, I believe he was in one of the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe movies. Prince Caspian, maybe?
I believe you're right. It might have been Dawn Treader.
The Narnia movies, yeah. I can't remember which one, but he's a great actor, and I'm really looking forward to this.
The other thing I'll note is somebody that'll certainly turn up that he's been kind of helping along is his son, getting him into acting, and I know in the last few Star Wars movies, anytime you might see Warwick, it was when he was in costume. A lot of the time his son would take over and actually do the work as well.
Okay.
There was some that were dual credited, but I know at the end of Rise of Skywalker, when you see Wicket, he has his son, like Wicket has a younger Ewok stand next to him, and that is actually Warwick's son as well.
Oh, cool. Anything else to add? We got 1:40 on the clock.
I think I'm with Andy. This I'm probably to a lesser degree, but this was one of those movies that I didn't realize other people liked until I was in my 20s. Like I saw it as a kid, but like it did not stay in the pop culture consciousness. So
yeah,
it's like with some of those 80s fantasy movies like Dark Crystal or Neverending Story that like when they do come up to people again in your 20s, I kind of found a new love for it. And he's right. Like Mad Mardigan is in my opinion, one of the most unsung badass characters in most action or sci-fi or fantasy movies almost ever.
Yeah. Val Kilmer absolutely just nails that role. Just nails it.
He's amazing. Like one of those silly things people would say, like men want to be him and women want to be with him. Like I envied that dude. He was
oh yeah.
He just seemed like he's an asshole at times. You're like, I can fix that if that was me. Yeah, but otherwise he just seemed really cool.
Yeah, I can remember being in the backyard with a wiffle ball bat trying to do Mad Mardigan moves. You know, just like
I feel like back in the day, Andy, wiffle ball bat was our weapon of choice for whatever we were playing. It didn't matter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Lightsaber,
Put it on your
any
arm,
type
make
of
it a
weapon.
gun.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Hit us with the next one, Josh.
Okay. We're at
3,
back to staying with Andy for Star Wars Visions.
Star Wars Visions is a I can't remember 10 episode anime short film story.
I feel like now that you're bringing this up, I feel like I missed this in the string of tweets that we talked about.
You did. Yes. Thanks for the representation, Brian.
Yeah. Sorry.
Anyways, it's supposed to. So there's not a lot of information that they gave us about this, other than they're using 10 prominent anime producers or creators to do 10 different like short film anime Star Wars episodes. There's a lot of really, really good anime out there, so I'm curious to see who they pick. I'm not as into anime as another guest host on the show. Ian is actually very, very into anime. Have you guys dabbled at all in any of the anime stuff?
Once or twice,
Dabbled.
because someone else wanted to watch something than when we were together, but other than that, it's not really of interest.
Okay.
I mean, I've watched some of the Netflix series. I've watched some JoJo. You know, I'm actually really excited for the Arc series that got debuted last night at the Game Awards.
Okay.
Looks amazing. The voice cast for that, I'll talk to you guys about later, is incredible. But for the most part, I don't watch it regularly.
I'm pretty excited about this. I think there's so many different styles within the anime genre that it'll be interesting to see like 10 different animated takes on Star Wars characters. I think that's going to be really cool. The Clone Wars actually, before the 3D animated one that we got, sort of did a I'm going to murder this guy's name.
Somebody else has to.
Gendy Tartakovsky did an anime of the Clone Wars, which is actually really cool if you've ever watched it. Gendy Tartakovsky also did Samurai Jack, and he has a show on Adult Swim, I think, right now called Primal. It's about a caveman and a dinosaur. It looks really freaking cool. I haven't watched it yet, but it seems to be getting pretty good coverage. But if you haven't checked it out, it's probably on a single DVD, I would guess, the whole like Gendy Tartakovsky Clone Wars series, which is just a different retelling of what you watch on Disney Plus for
I think
the 3D animated one.
I think I have both of those because they did 2 seasons of it. The first season was like 3-minute episodes.
It's
so
very
short, real
yes.
short.
Yes. But cool.
But they were for 3 minutes. They are action fucking packed. Like they move.
Yeah, a lot of lightsaber battles and stuff.
And I think they did a
It's
second
very
season
cool.
that were like maybe doubled, like 5 or 6 minute episodes or something like that. That had less in the season, but they were longer. So
Yeah.
I think there's probably 2 DVDs out there because I think I have 2 because I think I have one for each season. And whether there's a collected set of all of them, I guess that's something to look into. But yeah, I think there's 2 seasons of that. Yeah, Andy's right. They were fucking cool.
Yeah, and I don't know a lot of creators of animes or anything like that, but I think it would be cool if they gave this guy another thing to do.
Oh yeah.
Gendy Tartakovsky. I'm getting to know the name now. That would be the only one I would say that I'm like excited for. There has been no announcements as to who will be the creators of the 10 episodes yet, but I feel like it would be cool to sort of dive into the animes that these guys created before I watch the series.
Oh yeah.
If
Once
that
they get a
makes-
list.
Yeah, and once you get a list, you're like, okay, this guy from this guy from that, I feel like Ian would do a much better job of sort of saying, like, these are the guys I want to see do this.
Yeah, he could
But-
educate us all.
Yeah, exactly. It's a series that looks really cool. I like that they're doing it. There's not a lot of things sort of bring stories to life in Japanese animated series style. The only
Yeah.
one that comes to mind would be the Matrix did an Animatrix
Oh yes,
Mhm.
yeah,
thing that was
Pitch
pretty
Black
cool.
did it.
Did Pitch Black do it?
Yeah, and there's a Riddick anime out there.
Okay. So I think this is sort of out of Disney's comfort zone, which I kind of like for the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, it'll definitely be different than most of all the other Star Wars stuff we've seen before.
It's
Did
sort
you say
of,
a date on this, Andy? Because I found the tweet. It's saying 2021.
Oh,
No season or anything, just 2021.
yeah, I didn't know the date, honestly. But this is sort of like Marvel's What If.
Yeah, that's a good way to
equals
put it.
You know,
Yeah, if they're not connected, you know what I mean, thematically, and it's just one shots, they can release them one at a time here and there. It doesn't have to be as strict as a show that follows like the same storyline.
right?
you know?
Yeah, you could. It's cool because you can sort of give creative power to be like, hey, man, just roll with a 20-minute episode, see what you do, like have fun with it. Cool. Yeah.
See
Yeah,
how
I
swole you can make Ben Swolo.
think- yeah.
See how swole he can get.
I just there's some really cool stuff you could do with that, I think, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Anime
Yeah, I agree.
lightsaber battles, I'm in for.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be really cool.
All right, we got 15 seconds left, so I'm going to call it. Josh, hit us with the next one.
All right, before we do that, I'm actually going to circle back to Willow for a moment because we mentioned John Chu, the showrunner and creator that's going to be in charge of that, and we forgot to come back to him during that topic. So I just want to point out his background, at least directing, he started with Step Up 2 and 3, and then went on a little bit of a Bieber kick. He did 2 Justin Bieber documentaries and did the G.I. Joe sequel in between those. He then did the Gem and Holograms live action movie in 2015.
None of these are making me excited.
Correct.
Yeah, you're killing my enthusiasm.
Which is why we got to keep going. You keep going. The next year after Gem, though, he did Now You See Me Too.
Okay, that was a
Okay.
good movie. Yeah.
And then these are the 2 big ones that probably contributed most to him showing what he's capable of. Crazy Rich Asians, which I don't know if you guys saw it. It was really good, and it made a shitload of money worldwide.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never saw it, but I know its popularity.
I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done. And then the next thing, he just directed In the Heights, Lin-Manuel Miranda's musical follow-up.
That's on Warner Brothers
one
list.
of the things on the Warner Brothers list, yes. So that's kind of what his resume is. So it's pretty diverse, but you know that probably got him in the door to have the Willow discussion.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moving on.
8,
All right, Brian, tell us about the Secret Invasion.
Oh yeah, Secret Invasion, not Secret Wars. Secret Invasion. Comic book storyline for this. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong or missing any details. That's essentially like, at some point in the comics, it's discovered that prominent Marvel heroes and characters are being impersonated by Skrulls. And then it becomes like, where did the original people go? When did they get replaced? We have to figure out what happened to get these people back. We have to get rid of the Skrull invasion, which, again, in the comics, the Skrulls are the bad guys. Now, when we meet the Skrulls in Captain Marvel, they're the good guys, and the Kree are the bad guys. So we're still trying to get our footing, I feel like, on this. I don't know if it's going to be the Skrulls, you know, as a race are the bad guys, and then, like, Talos and the Skrulls that we meet in Captain Marvel are, like, a good section of the Skrulls. Like, I feel like that might be where they're going. But this is more or less, I feel like, the payoff of the end credits of... Where was he
Captain
at?
Marvel.
No,
Okay.
no. It's Far From Home.
Right. Yes. Because that's when
Oh.
we find out that Nick
Oh, yeah,
Fury's
that-
being.
yeah.
That was
Yes.
actually right.
So Nick Fury's out in space somewhere with the Skrulls, presumably, I guess, trying to head off maybe this invasion, or maybe they started seeing the signs of this and are trying to get ahead of it, as S.H.I.E.L.D. tries to do. And I think a while ago we had talked about Samuel L. Jackson coming to Disney Plus in a Nick Fury series. So I don't know if this is the replacement of that series or this is what this series morphed into, but Talos was nowhere mentioned when we talked about this thing before. So I was billing it as a Nick Fury S.H.I.E.L.D. series, and now we're in space and stuff looking for Skrulls, and now it's Secret Invasion. So this could be fucking blowing my mind with the stuff that they're going to do. And I always felt like Secret Invasion was it's something the movies have been teasing. So I figured we'd see the payoff in the movies somewhere down the line, but the fact that it's coming as a series surprised me. And maybe it works out in the better because that gives them more time to flesh this story out because it's a big arc in the comics. So I'd like to see more of this and how they do it and all that kind of good stuff. So I'm also curious to see what kind of characters show up from the movies, if it's just those two, if we're going to get Maria Hill, if we're going to get other prominent SHIELD agents in here. For the love of God, please. You've started the series and then ended the series and at some point kept saying this was all connected and then by the end of the series didn't give a fuck anymore. Give me some Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. characters in this show or something with this because
I'd like that.
For fans of that series, we want that payoff. We want them to be part of the larger universe and to matter. Like at the end of the series, I didn't care as much that it wasn't connected because they were doing their own thing and their own thing was fucking cool. But just give me some of these characters to interact with Nick Fury. They've done it once before. Let me see it again in the movies now that everything's established and this is cool again. End of my rant. Anybody want to chime in?
But it's for in their eyes, maybe I'm hoping it's not, but it's sort of like a been there, done that. We're done with it thing.
Possibly, but I mean, like the series ends. Like some of these characters can keep going, so I'd still like to see them matter in the Marvel universe. If we never see a continuation of the series again,
I'm trying to think of a reason why they wouldn't do that.
Right.
I think there's a couple things you could see out of it. One, like your connection in possibly, Coulson almost certainly. The rest of them, maybe briefly.
Yeah.
One of the cool things you didn't talk about that Secret Invasion does is it creates a lot of distrust among the heroes.
Good point. Yeah.
Where they don't know who's a Skrull, who's not a Skrull, and who they can trust, to not be a Skrull and be somebody that's getting impersonated. That part of it actually, it opens up a lot of avenues for storytelling that are fun.
It's Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but MCU.
Yeah.
From what I understand, Invasion of the Body Snatchers is literally your biology gets replicated and you dematerialize. You cease to be. These are, to some degree, more of replacements, and you are somewhere else.
Well, what happens in the comics is that the Skrulls that aren't friendly remind you that they're not friendly in the comics. They kidnap them. And the ones that they're impersonating, they're holding somewhere. I believe it ends up being somewhere, a lot of them were in the negative zone.
I kept wanting to say Savage Land for some reason, but I think I think I'm wrong.
But it could lead, even if it's the Savage Land or the negative zone. I can't remember. But it's one of those two, I do believe. It could lead either into a tie-in to finding the X-Men or finding the Fantastic Four. I'd say the 4 is more likely. The negative zone is more likely because we could see that happen through an introduction of Super Skrull.
For someone who doesn't read all these stories, does Secret Invasion lead to Secret Wars, or are they completely different?
No.
Yeah, they're different things.
Separate.
Yeah.
Secret Invasion happened in the comics in the early 80s? Mid 80s?
See, I don't know the year.
It's a long time ago.
Okay.
Secret Invasion or Secret Wars introduced the black suit Spider-Man. It's old.
Secret Wars I think was 80s. Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely the 80s.
Okay.
And Secret Invasion was the early 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're well separated.
Gotcha.
I think Super Skrull imitating all 4 Fantastic Four and having that be a cliffhanger for the series where we see that happen to lead in, I think that might be cool.
Yeah, I'd like to see some just see some Skrull impersonators trickle into the movies and then finish in the series and they figure it out and that's where the bulk of it happens. I think would be cool.
At the very least, I know we have a couple more things to talk about too. I do not envy anybody at Marvel Studios having to figure out how to juggle and keep straight everything that they are now dealing with.
Oh, see, this is the job I want. The continuity guy that's
right.
No, you can't do that there because this doesn't make sense.
Right.
This guy's over here in this movie.
That'd be fun.
Give me that job, please.
It would be...
Spoken as somebody with ADHD.
Yes.
There's a lot to juggle now. Okay, yep, moving on to the next.
4.
This thing just likes to do this way. It's still with you, Brian. Rogue Squadron, break it down.
Rogue Squadron. Okay. So I talked briefly about it whenever we hit it in the list of stuff. Patty Jenkins' reveal video, not knowing what that video is when I started watching it, that reveal was fucking amazing. I loved the way they did that, because even her suiting up and walking towards an X-Wing, you're still like, okay, it's a fighter pilot thing, but it's not until the title card comes up at the end of the video that it is, you are looking at Rogue Squadron, and then, holy hell. Old canon expanded universe had a whole Rogue Squadron book series, so this is just the fighter pilot squadron that Luke Skywalker forms in memory of Rogue One. He titles it after that ship and makes his own squadron. And as far as I know, in the lore, never actually lets anyone designate Rogue One, again, in honor of the crew that was lost for the plans of the Death Star. So Rogue Squadron always starts with Rogue 2 and goes from there. There's no Rogue One. At one point, I thought Luke, at least in the old canon, Luke was part of that squadron. Rogue Squadron flies in Empire. That's the squadron that's at the Battle of Hoth.
It's like him and Wedge and Biggs and
yes,
so on. So there's characters we know that are part of this.
Yes. So the books flesh out a lot more pilots. You get to learn about all of them. Wedge is very prominent. I'm trying to remember all the other ones that, like Dak. No, Dak dies.
Dak dies at the beginning of Empire.
Yeah. Hobby, I think, was the wingman for Wedge. He survives. I think he's in the book some more. Kyle Katarn, or not Kyle Katarn. Corran Horn, I think, was another pilot. He ends up being a Jedi in old lore. Like there's a lot there for those characters, and I think that just seeing like a fighter pilot squadron in the Star Wars universe is pretty fucking cool. They've already sort of going that way in Star Wars stuff that's happening now. If you played Star Wars Squadrons, that's the Star Wars Squadron. You know, that's Rogue Squadron for a game. Like that's they're laying the breadcrumbs for this stuff.
Yeah.
I guess my curiosity peaks with, like, this is going to look awesome. Patty Jenkins, I think, is going to direct the shit out of this. But I want to see what characters are involved. If they get Wedge, when does this happen? We're probably going to have to recast Wedge. It's probably not going to be Dennis Lawson. Is Luke going to be in this? Is this going to be the formation of Rogue Squadron where Luke is involved and the head pilot that picks pilots? Are they going to have to recast Luke for something like that? Or is it just going to be... And again, what era? Is this original trilogy? Is this New Republic era? Like, where is this at? What's going on? If Luke's not involved, I can see them just skipping Luke and just focusing on the pilots that they cast for this and trying to flesh out those characters. I think if Luke's there, it's going to distract from those stories and those characters. But yeah, just having some sort of space dogfight fighter pilot. Like, I mean, you think of the end of Rogue One, like that space battle is fucking amazing. It's the really best one in Star Wars.
Yeah.
If we have a movie based around shit like that, even a series of movies based around shit like that, sign me up. I'm in.
And
the floor is anybody else's. Please go.
Well, I was just gonna say two things. One, I think we'd see that it's not New Republic in her trailer, if her trailer is to be believed. Just because doesn't New Republic squadrons, aren't the X-wings all like crazy colors, and hers kind of looks like standard?
Well, I'm thinking that would be like, Resistance starts having different colors and stuff. Well, like the game Squadrons lets you customize a fighter to change the colors and stuff. So maybe that's just part of the lore now, that it doesn't all have to be uniform color schemes for Squadrons.
Yeah, and Rebels, Sabine sort of paints a couple of fighters too, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Like, sort of changes the color of a couple of them.
She's kind of a rebel among rebels, I guess.
Yeah.
But still.
The other thing I was going to say is I don't know how much you've seen of the rumors, not rumors, but just of like, it was Boss Logic put it out there, made the whole thing with Sebastian Stan cast as Luke.
I did see that, yeah.
And it looked fucking good. This is not official in any way. This is not even a rumor. This is just some really good artist made Sebastian Stan into Luke, and it fucking looks good. I didn't realize how much he looked like the character. And if they were to go that route and recast Luke, I could get on board. Sebastian's a good actor. He could pull that off.
I feel like it's I don't want to dive into that because I feel like it's a conversation for another time. But I'm very much on the fence with that whole thing.
Yeah, I
like,
know.
One, the fan casting thing, and two, like, if I want someone else besides Mark Hamill to play Luke, like that's a big can of worms for me to get into.
Yeah. Well, I hear you. But it helped me get on board with recasting Luke with how good that looked, I guess I could say.
I think what
Normally I
will
wouldn't have
surprise
been on
me,
board.
or what might figure things out, if they put Luke in The Mandalorian, which I feel like is a possibility at this point, however they do that, and whoever they choose, if they choose another actor to do that, I would presume that's the character, that's the person you're going to see play Luke in a Rogue Squadron movie if Luke is in the movie.
We'll have to wait and see. I mean, that's kind of like you said. This could be Rogue Squadron as like an honor to Rogue Squadron's original.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This could be something that is in during the Resistance time, during the New Republic time, during God knows what time period.
Right.
But it's just throwing it back to Rogue Squadron and what they did.
Andy, Josh, anything real quick? We got 30 seconds on the clock, but I want to make sure you guys get in here.
The reveal was really awesome. It gave me goosebumps. I did not know that Patty Jenkins was such an adrenaline junkie, but I think she's like the perfect person to do this. I didn't know any of that information, and the fact that she has been looking so hard for a fighter jet movie, and
which is so niche.
Yeah. Comes across an X-Wing fighter movie. Yes.
I kept thinking, like, we're getting Top Gun too. Like, what other fighter plane movie are you saying you're part of? I'm like, we're getting Top Gun. What's happening?
Right.
Real quick, the only thing I would throw out is for the listeners. I mean, personally, not having any of the background that you guys just talked about, I recognized what was happening, but I didn't know any of the shit you just talked about. I thought that was the absolute best put together piece of media for the reveal. Like, I liked it better than any of the first look or sizzle reel or trailers we got for anything.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
And also, it made me realize I am very glad then that Patty Jenkins' Marvel relationship turned sour on Thor: The Dark World, because
That's right.
it is, and she left that project because who knows, like all these years later, she may not have wanted to play with them again, or might not have been in the same position to be able to, etc. Not to be mean, but like, probably, let's be honest, if it's not for Wonder Woman, this may not be happening, and Wonder Woman is not going to happen with her if she makes the Dark World.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
you're
a
absolutely right.
serendipitous
But, I mean,
turn of events.
Yeah.
Hit us with the next one.
Moving on to...
2,
All right, finally I get to BS for a while. All right, this was the thing that I absolutely lost my shit over the most, and it's for a very specific detail. This is about She-Hulk, and it's very much to the point that I am such a defender of the Edward Norton Incredible Hulk. I think it is so underrated. I get what people kind of don't like about it and what's been improved upon since then. I love me Ruffalo. It's not a Norton versus Ruffalo issue. I just really like that movie a lot. And
It's well done for sure.
And I feel bad. I think it's probably forever going to remain one of the lowest scored of the MCU. I think it's the lowest box office gaining of all 23 movies at this point. One of the highlights of that movie has always been Tim Roth for me. I freaking love every moment that guy is on screen in that movie. Obviously, until you're not seeing him anymore and he's the Abomination. Tim Roth himself, holy shit. Now, granted, I understand that this could mean that we're getting a whole lot of Abomination, not as much of him, and maybe he's just doing voice work. I don't know, but maybe in the same way that, Bruce, over time, figured out ways he can go from Bruce to Hulk. In the 12 years at this point that the Incredible Hulk has happened, maybe they figured out a way that Tim Roth can do the same thing. He can go back and forth or something. I would seriously challenge anybody, if you haven't seen that movie or watched it in a long time, put it on through that prism of watching his portrayal as Blonsky. Tim Roth is a freaking badass, awesome guy in that movie. So that alone got me even more. I know the She-Hulk announcement came Comic-Con last year, so we already knew that was in the works. But this was brand new, and this lit me up like no tomorrow.
I'm fuzzy on whether it was a series or a movie.
It's going to be a series. It's going to be a Disney Plus series.
Okay. And has anybody read Hulk? Does Abomination switch back and forth? Does anybody know?
I don't.
In the
Comic wise,
comics,
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
As far as I know, no.
Okay.
But I have not read like a lot of Abomination. I've read a lot of Hulk, but Abomination doesn't show up in a lot of the later Hulk stuff that I've read. Like he turns up and then he's gone. He kind of pops in and out. He's not really there a lot. So I'm
I
not
feel
saying
like
that confidently.
To Josh's point, like, why do you bring Tim Roth back if not to let Tim Roth do something? Like, if he's just for mocap or voiceover, I feel like that's wasted.
No,
Right.
Agreed.
I will say it depends, because the mocap difference between 2008 that they used with Edward Norton and the mocap you get out of Ruffalo
True.
is
Yeah.
light years
Yeah.
a jump. So if
I was gonna say, if you look at what was in Endgame,
right, so if you can
that's just big.
figure out a
green
way to
Ruffalo.
kind of do the same thing with Blonsky and Abomination, where if it's mocap, but you're able to emote the actor through it much more than was previous. Maybe. Just flying high on that right now. That's all.
Right. I got you.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I'm looking forward to it. She-Hulk's a fun character. I don't know how much I would plan on Ruffalo and Tim Roth showing up.
Possibly.
I think
Just
Tim
because
Roth.
they're gonna.
I feel like Tim Roth would be the villain. Like, I feel like, in my mind, they're putting him in there to tell you this is the adversary for the series, and Mark Ruffalo is there for a cameo.
See,
'Cause,
now I
right,
was.
she needs his blood to be She-Hulk, right?
I would imagine. Yeah.
I think
It's
that's how
not
she
his-
comes about.
They got to tell that story
Isn't it
somewhere.
like
It's like a blood transfusion
blood
from Mark
transfusion. Right,
Ruffalo
right, yeah.
from Bruce to her, and that's why she gets She-Hulk powers.
Yeah. But what I was going to say is I could see this very much taking a General Zod turn with, like you're not so much having Abomination there as the villain, perhaps a catalyst for a villain.
Okay.
Perhaps, somebody that's there like, I did this wrong. This is where you can do it right. Kind of thing for whoever the real villain of the, say, season 1 will be.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because we've seen the Abomination already. We've seen the Hulk beat the Abomination over and over and over again in that movie. In fact, he kicks the shit out of Blonsky and Abomination, and then I feel like we don't need to see it again.
Right. Just
You know what I mean?
Just from a woman doing it, or just any other Hulk or anything else. So right.
Right. Why does She-Hulk need to prove herself against the same villain? Give her own villain, but perhaps the Abomination is there in some respect to guide or alter the path of the villain.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
The I think it was funny though. The last point I'll make is the actress cast as Jennifer Walters and She-Hulk, Tatiana Maslany, was, by all intents and purposes, announced or reported several months ago, and then was detracted, and she chose to say no, none of that is true. I don't know where this is coming from, etc. And then it maybe she was just really taking the hard line of, look, I was told that I was not supposed to be allowed to say any of this, and she really took it to heart. But then she was confirmed in the role anyway.
Yeah.
I know, social media did its social media thing, and she got a lot of heat at that time because everybody wanted to see Allison Brie cast as Jennifer Walters.
Oh, all right.
Which, by all means, is an excellent casting choice. It's that great fan casting thing, and when fans didn't get what they wanted, they did what asshole internet people do. So I feel like that's why a lot of that happened.
Fair.
Plus, I'm sure the what do they call it? The NDA stuff for these agreements. It's like if you say the wrong thing at the wrong time, you're done. So
Yeah,
it's
it can be
like
bad
just
news.
hedge your bets and just you're better off just saying nothing or denying everything until something comes out.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Especially if you're somebody that's coming from nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick, from what I know about the She-Hulk comics, the writers have a lot of fun with She-Hulk, sort of like breaking the walls and stuff like that. So if they do the same sort of thing in this series, it'll be really fun.
Yeah,
Nice.
for sure.
She does a little bit of Deadpool-y stuff, but not
Yeah.
quite as... She's not as vulgar as
She's
Deadpool,
not as
though.
vulgar, but they do sort of that.
Tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
All right, we got 2 left. One from Mike and one from me. Let's see what the fates bring.
6.
It is Mike telling us about Andor.
I'm not here to tell you about it. We don't really know a whole lot about it at this point.
All right,
I'm here
moving
to
on.
Say I'm very excited.
There was a sizzle.
I am very excited for this series. I did not add, like, I've been trying to avoid like spoilers on all of this, so a lot of these sizzle trailers and stuff like that I did not watch.
Sizzle.
But I'm assuming it's confirmed that K2 will be there, Alan Tudyk will be there.
I think
assuming that's
talked about they didn't put it in the he's not in the video. They didn't put it in the tweet, but I'm pretty sure they announced that a while ago that he is returning.
right. And the relationship between the two of them, to me, it's I mean, is it Han and Chewie? Not yet, but maybe it will be once we see more of it. And it's just something to me, at least for K2, the way that he was portrayed, the way that everything happened with him, more so, in my opinion, than the other droids we have in Star Wars. K2 is more human, I think, seeming than the other droids that we get to deal with. He has a wider range of emotions than 3PO's just constant panic and fright.
Panic, numbers, and fright, yeah.
Yeah. And R2's just a sarcastic little prick,
From what we can tell from his beeping, yes.
Yeah, but K2 has a range of emotions. K2's, he's sarcastic and jokes. He has care for Cassian. He has a lot of these, he's just more ranged, you know what I mean, as a character, as a droid, I think, than any of the others. And I think that lends really well to the relationship with Cassian. And then, of course, we get the whole, this is probably going to be like a spy movie. I would think. Like a covert op kind of thing, because that's what Cassian was really doing mostly.
Sort of what he is, like a special ops kind of guy.
That's the way I took it. I mean, he was a fixer, he was somebody that got things done that other people couldn't get done, and was willing to do whatever it took. I mean, we see that in the opening moments of Rogue One. I mean, this is not somebody that is, gonna follow the rules.
Well, this is gonna be the interesting part, because it doesn't seem like he really turns the corner to be like, I'm a good guy. I'm gonna fight my orders because they're the wrong orders, and I'm gonna stand up for what's right until Rogue One. So if this all takes place before Rogue One, what type of character arc or turn is he gonna go through if it's just like him doing dirty shit for the rebellion? But he's not really having much of a character growth because the character growth doesn't come until Rogue One.
So he might just be like someone who likes doing the dirty shit for whoever pays him to do the dirty shit.
Well, obviously he's working for the rebellion, so it's got to be rebellion stuff.
Right.
But yeah.
But he doesn't necessarily buy into it.
Or question orders or anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, and as he says in the movie, he's been fighting it since he was a kid.
Yeah.
He's been in that fight, so he was born and raised with it. And I kind of look at him like a Star Wars version of Black Widow. He's been born and raised to be exactly what he is, and he's good at it.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to get to see some of that. And I think
I almost feel like
that'll be really cool.
Or at least I'd like to see maybe less about Cassian's missions and more play the relationship with Cassian and K2. That should be the focus of the show to me.
I think K2 is going to be the moral center that's questioning the dirty shit he's doing.
Okay.
And maybe making him question himself a little bit along the way. And you can see it in Cassian. He knows, when he does things that it's not right, but he's just doing what he has to do. He kills that guy in the beginning. He's not killing him because he hates him or he's doing it because it's what had to be done to get the mission done.
Right,
But
and the fact that he brushes that off so quickly and just goes, I feel like that's the Cassian we're going to see for a whole show.
Perhaps.
Because he has to end up there for Rogue One, right? So you can't make him go through a lot of changes.
That doesn't mean that he can't have had to deal with like a situation where maybe he didn't want to kill the person he had to kill. You know,
Okay.
previously, and perhaps that's the arc, is the person he wasn't willing to kill
Okay.
for the rebellion. You know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah, I'll be interested to see where it goes in that sense, but
Josh, I want to get you in here too. We got 45 seconds. Anything you want to add for the Cassian series?
Yeah, I looked back at the tweets and whatnot from Star Wars or Disney, whoever put them out and whatnot. Like, they didn't mention anybody. Like, it was not a casting message they put out. But Stellan Skarsgård is attached to this, which is pretty damn cool, I think. As well as an actress named Adria Arjona, who I absolutely love. She was in one of my favorite movies of the last couple of years, The Belko Experiment. She was also in Pacific Rim 2, and then other people might know her from the Netflix movies Triple Frontier and Six Underground. And then she's about, we would have gotten it this past summer, but she's also going to be in Sony's Morbius movie. So it's a pretty good cast in addition to the people that we figured would be in it.
Yeah.
and a lot of the rest of the cast from Rogue One won't be there because Cassian doesn't meet them until Rogue One.
Sure.
So,
But even the few that we either got confirmation on or could guess would be around, it's pretty cool.
I mean, give me some Jimmy Smits, Bail Organa. Give me some Mon Mothma. Give me some K2. I mean, you could even throw in R2-D2 and 3PO if you want, because there's probably wherever the Rebel base is, they'll be hanging around the Rebel base.
Like I said, Hera could even show up for all we
Oh
know,
yeah,
because
I'd love to see that too.
she's a general at that time. So
All right, last one.
Last but not least, and this is let's go.
1,
This gotta complete it.
One.
This is the one that I think there's the least known about it. We just know that they announced it. That we mentioned before. John Watts will be helming the Fantastic Four introduction into the MCU at some point. No dates, no nothing. Just his name attached to that property. Something that I want to kind of pull Watts from, based on something someone said earlier, which is the Spider-Man trilogy is coming to a close, the current one, and so which side of the street did he go to? And that actually dovetailed right into something I was already thinking about this, which was sort of keep in mind that I sort of feel that up until right now, like it sounds like Spider-Man 3 is being made as a collaboration between the two companies as a means of making sense of them splitting Spider-Man away from the MCU. And however they do that, Sony can take what they're left with going forward and do their thing, and whatever they're going to leave it with, make sense in the rest of the fabric of the MCU. But in my eyes, keep in mind, Marvel is the one making that movie. Sony is the financier, they are the distributor. But Marvel Studios is the producer. They're the creator. So with that in mind, it's not surprising at all that John Watts would say, well, these are the people actually manifesting it. These are the creators, regardless of who's writing the checks and doing the marketing. These are the people making it. So for him to jump from one seat to the other doesn't surprise me all that much. I'm very interested to see what he can do with a team. I think in the little micro world of Spider-Man and his friends, you have sort of that idea of juggling these couple of characters, but seeing how they're going to incorporate the Fantastic Four. Are they going to bother with an origin story, or are we just going to catch up with them? Do we get Doctor Doom right away? And if so, is he their antagonist immediately, or do you just seed something for later? I think it's an interesting choice to put that person, that captain from one ship into this particular other one.
I think depending on where they go with it, if it's an origin story, I think you have to have Doom in the first movie, because I think his origin is tied to the Fantastic Four so completely that he has to be there. If they already established the Fantastic Four, you could save him for a second movie. But
I think I
ahead.
was going to cut in on the origin story thing, because you have, this director that took over Spider-Man, whose origin story has been told a few times before in other movies that we didn't want to hear again. Nobody wanted it again. Nobody needed it again. Taking over the Fantastic Four in the exact same fucking scenario, where I don't want to see another origin story for the Fantastic Four. I don't want it.
It's a fair point.
Let Marvel trickle them in however they do along the way up to that point, and feed their story in the background and the side, however they want to do it. But handing off a story that doesn't require an origin to the same director, I think, is a good choice.
See, this is one movie, I think, granted, they're established characters that we know from the comics. We've seen other Fantastic Four movies with those characters. I actually wouldn't mind seeing an origin story for Fantastic Four. I'd like to see what the MCU version of Fantastic Four's origin would be.
I mean,
I could go either way. I like both sides of that.
I like the build up for that kind of thing. And it comes down to how popular is the Fantastic Four. Do regular, Yo-Jo movie audiences know the Fantastic Four enough where you can just go in and say, yep, these guys have powers, this is where they got them from, they're the Marvel's first family, they work in the Baxter building and do all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. Let's go. Or do they need that setup? I honestly don't think Fantastic Four is as popular as we think it is, and I think they require an origin story.
You're right. They're not Batman or Spider-Man.
Right. Spider-Man, I think, is a
two...
very specific case. They've done origins twice, and he's one of the most popular characters for Marvel. I don't think he needs an origin story. Fantastic Four had 2 movies that did mediocre at the box office, and people have probably forgot about... 3 movies, because I forgot about fucking Josh Trank's Fantastic Four already.
As you should have.
Yeah. So I guess they did try 2 origin stories there, but I think most of those movies are largely forgettable, and not many people remember the Fantastic Four from 10 years ago and what they did in those movies. So I think they are almost required to do an origin story there.
How early do you think... I mean, it's so hard to tell the timeline with most of this stuff. Like, do you think this is something I was afraid of them doing, is especially in no matter what, production is slowed right now. That's the best you can say. And, are they telling us stuff that we're going to not get until 2027?
Yeah.
What I'm worried about is the announcement of the directors so early with a studio that has had issues hanging on to directors fully through movies.
Yeah.
True.
So I'm a little worried that maybe he doesn't get to represent what his Fantastic Four story is.
It's a consideration.
Yeah. I mean, the next big thing is going to be cast. Like, I'm okay with this director. I'm on board with this. I'm excited. Let me see what the cast is. Tell me who the Fantastic Four are and Doctor Doom, and I will tell you how excited I am for this movie. All right. We just hit the 5-second mark, so I'm going to kill the timer. So that is it.
We made it.
Which, honestly, I think the timer helped. I think we went through this actually for as much as we covered.
Yeah.
Granted, it's still like a 2.5 hour going on 3 hour episode, but still, I think it moves. Anybody that actually listens to this whole thing can let us know how it went, but I thought it went pretty good, all things considered.
I'm a fan of the timer format. I think that it makes our comments sharper and more to the point, and you try to get all your information in and just like a blew it. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's a good way to go. It's something we got to keep implementing it's something we've done, and I've given a 10-minute timer, and I feel like it still feels bloated a little bit there, but I think 6-7 minutes is the sweet spot for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Depends on the topic and how broad it is.
Well, true. I think we went into this knowing we were going to try to quick hit some stuff here, so.
Well, they were narrow. They don't have a whole lot of details on most of them.
Right.
So it's mostly just like, I'm excited for this. And here's why.
Yeah. All right. So again, thank you anybody that actually lasted through this whole episode. Hopefully, in my mind, it looks bad when you're looking at the timer, but just piecemeal it. You'll get through it. We're not going anywhere. We'll be here. It's all
Put that
fine.
at the beginning.
Yeah, I should. I should have opened with that. I'll remember that for the next time I expect us to go 5 hours. Finishing up, I should do this at the beginning too. But the only one I know that has stuff to plug is Mike. But Mike, anything you want to plug?
I mean, if you're still listening here, you probably know all my things. But You can catch me on Twitch. Rare Achievements there. Rare Achievements on YouTube. That's it.
Andy, Josh, anything you guys are working on you want to talk about?
Nope.
No.
Okay. I'm just offering. Feel free to make some stuff up like Ian does. We'll see if anybody actually tries to.
You guys can follow me on Twitter at thedruid79. I'm not sure what you'll find there, but you can follow me.
He drinks a lot of cool beers.
I
guys.
do, yeah.
He tells you about them on Twitter, and it's awesome.
I don't necessarily tell you about the beers, but I will tell you that I'm drinking them.
Yes.
You will,
It's
you
an
will
app.
be
It's a
aware of
thing.
what I'm consuming.
Yes.
Yeah. And some nights your eyes will start to bug out of your head when you're like, wait, is this the 6th time Andy's posted a beer or the 12th? I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
Josh,
yeah,
do you post
yeah.
about your beers on Twitter too?
My beers, no, but I just started putting together my pop bottle collection to finally display in our office at our house, after 2.5 years that we've lived here. So I took out all the, like a couple of dozen Jones soda bottles and whatnot. So I can start to throw that out at
Like
some
glass
point.
bottles?
Yes.
Nice.
Go back through like your letterbox for soda pop and like date every time that you've had a Jones soda and log it in your book.
You got a Crystal Pepsi in there?
Oh, God.
All right, so that's it for us. If you've enjoyed the show, please leave us a 5-star rating and review. Be sure to give us a share on social media. Make sure you follow or subscribe to keep up with the show. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Google, Anchor, Stitcher. Hopefully anywhere you find a podcast, you will find us. You can find us on Facebook. Search Bry Guy into Super Friends or go to facebook.com/Bry Guy Super Friends. You can send us questions, comments, topic suggestions, any of that stuff there. Try to email us, bryguysuperfriends@gmail.com. It works now. I can check it, but it's hit or miss if you want to do that. Hit us up on Twitter at BGSuperFriends. You can follow me on Twitch also, Jedi Bry Guy. Whenever we decide to do another live episode, that's usually where we've been doing them. So follow, keep up with us there. If we ever do live, you can watch us when we do this. And on behalf of Andy, Josh, Mike, and myself, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
Man, that's wiggity wiggity whack.